This conference will now be recorded.
Okay.
Sorry, Doug, we were on mute. I had us muted.
Okay. We all good?
Yep, we're good.
And Bill, just let us know if you can hear us okay, sir.
He's muted.
Okay.
I can hear you fine.
Okay, thank you. We will start with public comments. Who do we have today?
I don't have anyone for agenda items, but I have 2 in-person and 1 online comment for non-agenda items. First in the room is Joel McCulca regarding the completion of the resolution of the SBAC.
Joe McCulca, Chairman of the Stony Brook Advisory Committee. I know we've discussed before the updated resolution that, and there was the issue of number of board members. Virtually everything else on that resolution that was approved and has not been signed yet, we were okay with. There was a number of board members that concerned me. And as I have turned over to Doug, a document that was from a meeting back in, I believe it was June 2nd of 2010, when I first became a member of the committee. And myself and a gentleman named David Leatham were both board members at the time when we joined the committee. He was the chairman and I was the vice chairman. Tony, who used to call into our meetings when there were new members to explain the sunshine law, and we brought the subject up, and in that minutes of that 2010 meeting, his recommendation was to simply notice the meetings. In other words, notice the board meeting where we would go and not really discuss, but report what happened and go answer questions that were in the minutes from the Stony Brook Advisory Committee meeting. And it worked fine. And we already noticed the meetings at the committee meetings that are held here. One of the issues I had with the limitation on the number of board members was the simple fact that we have 7 committee members. Of those 7, 6 routinely attend the HOA board meetings. If they're board members or non-board members and they're still in that room, I don't understand the distinction why it should be they can't be board members. And I have not been able to find anywhere where there is an exclusion in writing saying that's the case. Now, I did mention to Tony 2 meetings ago, I didn't attend the last one, that he had was really trying to avoid a violation of the sunshine law. It didn't really preclude board members from being on the committee. And it seems to me that if we simply follow his recommendation from those minutes in 2010 of noticing properly the meetings and opening it up to non-Stony Brook residents, which we will do, and we did at a remote committee meeting just a couple Wednesdays ago. And I think we should be all right. We're not trying to hide anything. No decisions are being made by the committee at the HOA meeting. It is simply a report to communicate with our community. And that is one of the recommendations or responsibilities of the committee, is to communicate both ways with the community of Stony Brook, because we are, after all, a gateway committee. It's one way for us to do that efficiently. That's all I can say. In any case, I'm ready to answer any questions if you have.
Yeah, I don't think, I mean, Tony's not here to,
I know that.
to weigh in on it. I think the way I understood it is if you have board members who are officially on the committee, that puts you within standards to be able to follow. if you attend the meeting as a board member, it's a public meeting and you're there as a
resident.
member of the public. So the regulatory impacts are different because you're an official committee member versus someone in the audience, still being able to weigh in, have comments. I think that was the distinction, the way I understood it, but I would have Tony weigh in because I don't.
Yeah, I think that the issue is that an HOA, the Sunshine, 2 members can get together and discuss over a beer at the golf course, anything they want to talk about. If you have 5 members and 3 are playing, it's a board meeting.
Understood.
With our situation or with your situation, when you have the committee members of the advisory committee, 2 makes a crowd. So whether that 2 is in your HOA meeting or they're out on the street or they're down here at Boulevard Deli, that is an official meeting or it's a violation of the Sunshine Law. So I thought what Tony was saying at the last meeting is that if you have that second deal occurring at a board meeting, you simply advertise them as 2 different meetings.
Which is what we're,
And that solves the
agreeing to.
problem.
and that's what we're agreeing to. And that's our recommendation. That was the recommendation in those minutes.
But didn't he also say that they have to take notes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Take
which we do.
advertise,
Had to be in
notes,
it.
the whole 9
We
yards.
do.
A separate set of notes and make it open
Yeah.
to the public.
Yeah, that is.
Yeah.
I mean, the last meeting I left, I thought it was clear that issue.
Well, apparently I was waiting for a response. At that meeting, Tony said he would come back with something in black and white
Okay.
to state that. And I have emailed him twice now and I don't have a response and he hasn't come back to
All right,
us.
well, Laura, can you just?
We'll get that. We'll make that happen.
I appreciate that, Bob.
Laura or Gary,
Uh,
whoever's.
Excuse me, this is Lenore Brakefield. Are you guys able to hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, so I'm subbing in for Tony right now. Tony's still in front of the Planning Commission in Collier County. He'll jump on as soon as he can. But I did hear your discussion, and I'm kind of jumping in because I wasn't at the last meeting. But it sounds to me like what you're asking for a distinction between the rules as they apply to an HOA and how they would apply to a governmental entity, and what would happen if you had 2 of your board members or 2 board members, with a public entity join an association. Is that what you're asking?
Well, he made a clear definition between the various opportunities. And all we're asking for him is to write down that distinction from his last
Yeah,
meeting.
the position.
Okay, so you just a memo of what he previously told you. That will suffice?
That is correct.
Yeah, the resolution needed to be updated to reflect the discussion that happened about that clarification.
It's essentially what we're asking is just him to give us the approval that as long as we notice properly both meetings, take minutes and supply and offer them and supply them, that would be okay as far as the Sunshine Law was.
Okay, I'll relay that to him and make sure that you get that response.
All set?
Yep.
Thank you,
And
everybody.
there's lots of luck trying to explain that to the general public.
Yes.
And Joe, what I'll do is, and I'll also,
Working on this for 11 years. It's still happening.
We're getting close.
and I'll also say that if Tony has any points of clarification, I'll have him reach out to you directly. So you guys can make sure we hammer this out and
All right.
get to resolution. Okay.
Although we do like you coming every meeting. It's nice.
I try to make 4 off.
Okay, also from Stony Brook, we have Margaret Feinberg, who would like to speak regarding the fountain at Gateway Griffin Roundabout signage. And signage.
She said and signage. For the record, Margaret Feinberg, Stony Brook at Gateway. I had no idea that a fountain was going to go in at the roundabout at Gateway and Griffin until today, when I was actually looking at Lee County's Board of County Commissioners agenda for next week. And lo and behold, there's a change order on there. And I read it and I was shocked to find out that the district had agreed to maintain the fountain that's going to go in the middle of that roundabout. I'd like to understand how that came about, because do we have any idea what kind of a fountain, what the design's going to be? Do we have any idea how much it's going to cost to maintain this through the years? And why isn't Lee County maintaining it? Why are we agreeing to maintain it? And the other thing is, I think we need to consider asking the county to upgrade the kind of signage on the roundabouts so that people understand where they're supposed to go, which lane, what direction, because there's a lot of close calls at the roundabout that we currently have.
Margaret, I think the fountain was something that kind of came up and Ed had some discussions on it. I don't believe we've got any specifics.
No,
on-
we haven't seen the picture yet. Cecil indicated that the county would design and pay for the fountain. The only issue that we've got right now that I see on it is we got a sanitary sewer manhole out there that could be an obstacle for it, but I'll let the engineers work that out. I just can't picture a major expense for that. The reason for it is that we wanted something that would identify Gateway and not three scrawny looking palms and stone like we have at Commerce Lakes. That is, everybody that around here thinks that is just about as dull as you can get. There's not much else you can do that in the way of landscaping that's not a maintenance issue and blocks vision. And so the fountain I saw down there on the way to the airport, the new one that goes to the airport the back way, coming out of JetBlue Park. I had no idea that the thing cost what it cost, but the county offered to put one in for us if we would accept the deal of the maintenance. And my deal is that for something to beautify the community and I think it's a great idea.
But we don't know the maintenance.
We don't know
costs.
the maintenance deal yet.
We don't know final design. We don't have maintenance.
But I can't
I don't even think it's absolutely done deal yet because we've got that.
We got that sewer
We got
issue.
the sewage
Yeah.
issue. But
Yeah,
as
we
soon
haven't
as we
seen
get
the
that
deal.
information, we'll communicate it out.
Then relative to the signage, I drive that road a lot down there and I understand it, but most of it is that people don't think. If you're going to turn left, get in the frickin' left lane. If you're going to go straight, get in the right lane, and if you're going to go right, get in the right lane. If you're getting in the right lane and you're turning left, you're going to create havoc in the middle of the roundabout. And people don't understand that. I just don't get it, why they don't understand that.
I think the one thing that we could probably do is direct staff to reach out to DOT. We've got 2 roundabouts that are here now. I think some type of traffic study or at least some observation would be warranted for them to see what the behavior is in our community. And if there is opportunities to either enhance the signage or do something. I think it's better today than it was, the first month or 2.
Well,
I mean, it
it's
seems like
getting
each
better.
month
It's
it gets better, but
That's the biggest.
if there is opportunities to enhance the signage to improve over time, to make it more clear or whatever, I think it's something that we should reach out to DOT and say, hey, we've had this for a while. There still seems to be a little bit of confusion. Can we have someone from DOT come out and do a study or at least do some observations to make sure that the signage is in line with the behaviors? Is there something they could do, through their observations that might help improve it? I don't see any reason why we can't do that.
I think that would be a good idea. I've nearly been sideswiped a couple of times
Yeah.
trying to get through it. So I'm in my lane. I know where I'm going, but it seems like the people around me are having difficulty
Yeah,
figuring out
no,
where they're
understood.
going.
Is it with trucks or other cars?
Other cars.
Trucks, I've had problem with it, especially lawn care, where they have those big rigs.
Mhm.
They can't make it around there on that radius without coming into your lane.
Well,
Yeah.
and one thing that I would encourage when we talk to DOT is have them look at the curbing, especially in front of the high school.
The high school,
Yeah.
because it's not a circle.
Notice all,
It's
Black
not-
marks.
The tracks
Just
over
notice
the
the-
top, yeah.
and those black marks indicate issues.
They're going too fast,
Well, either they're going too fast or whatever they're driving
too big.
is too big. So, I mean, those are some visual indicators that might cause,
Just
a need to take a
just
look at
an
things.
idea.
And
And-
the signs, so I do have a question, because we are responsible for the signage. So we would need DOT to approve additional signage, but we will be responsible for paying for those signs.
It depends on if
What it
there's standard signage that would enhance direction, if it's their signs, they'll put them up, they'll pay for it. If we wanted enhanced signage to match our current design.
Well, I
then
remember
we'd
that,
have to
yeah,
pay
I
those.
know.
But I think if there was a sign to put up that would better indicate direction, I would imagine they would probably pay for that.
The only thing
But I
I
don't
know would be to take and go back both directions from the roundabout, back maybe 200-300 yards, and put a directional sign. Picture the roundabout with the arrows. If you're going to a left turn or straight, arrow up, and then if you're going right or you're going straight. In other words, something don't.
Run into you.
Yeah, well, and make it pictorial, because you aren't gonna have time to read it.
Well, the confusing one is when you're going around that turn to go to Saucy Meatball. That's the one that's a little confusing to me, because it seems like that's the one that veers to the right, but it doesn't. I mean, it can, but, and it's not really clear that that you're supposed to go this way. So maybe just different, directional indicators, through paint. But anyway, I understand what you're saying, and it does warrant probably another look now that we've had it for a while.
And just a couple more comments about the fountain. Hoping that it's not going to be a fountain that's shooting up in the air, because that is going to create a wet roadway. And at the roundabout, that's probably the last thing that you want. And somebody is going to eventually go through the center of that roundabout and take out the fountain.
The one over at going to the airport shoots up in the air, but it does not exit outside. So they keep it within the confines of the water deal. It doesn't
Low
spray.
flow.
Now, if you got a 30, 40 mile an hour wind, it's going to blow. You're not going to stop that, but
I mean, I think
It's
once we get the
minimal
final
times.
design, we'll probably have some questions.
Will this be potable water or reuse water?
hope it's potable.
Just asking questions.
We're
Because
gonna
next thing
pull
we'll-
it from the golf course.
Oh, that's a great idea.
You didn't say that.
I like that, Doug.
Thanks, Margaret.
After the meter, right?
I have two people online who would like to speak. First is Chad Rosenstein about the Stony Brook Advisory Committee's decision on Stony Brook Road maintenance.
Hi, good afternoon. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, fellow supervisors. I'm Chad Rosenstein on the Stony Brook HOA Board of Directors, and I'm here representing my own opinions. I wish I could be there today, but I'm headed back to Fort Myers. But I wanted to provide some comments in regards to the Stony Brook Advisory Committee's proposal to place a rejuvenator on the main road in Stony Brook, which is Pebblebrook Boulevard. First and foremost, I am certainly in favor of having roads in Stony Brook that are safe, operable, and well maintained. The roads in Stony Brook are approximately 15 years old and will be nearing the end of their life expectancy here in the near future. The advisory committee approved the contract at their Tuesday meeting to spend about $30,000 to rejuvenate Pebblebrook Boulevard, leaving the other roads as is. As an individual that has overseen budgets for larger professional associations and oversees the HOA budget, I understand the importance of having facts to base long-term planning on. I would find it prudent to have an independent engineering study that would determine the appropriate course of action for the roads rather than a salesperson from an asphalt repair company that really has no visibility of the underlying road conditions that an engineering study would provide us. If the independent engineering study determines that the rejuvenation is the best path forward for the Stony Brook roads, I would certainly be in favor of funding the project through the 004 fund. However, if other road restoration alternatives are identified in the study, we should further explore those options as well before committing the funds to the rejuvenation. Based on what I heard at the Pelican Preserve Advisory Committee last month, they indicated that they will wait to do anything to their roads until they have reached the end of their useful life, as Tetra Tech had indicated to them that resealing and other methods do not extend the life of the roads, they merely are cosmetic. So in closing, prior to authorizing the spend of this rejuvenation, I would ask that the Board of Supervisors would direct the advisory committee to enlist the services of an engineering firm to evaluate the pavement conditions and provide recommendations on how to deal with the pavement deterioration that we are beginning to see in Stony Brook. And that's it. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Wait,
Is that-
for some context on that, they, yesterday at the Stony Brook Advisory, they're moving $28,000 from their unassigned reserve fund into their R&M for their roads to do some seal coating inside of Stony Brook. So they're paying for it out of their
on
004
the Stony Brook roads they own, or
Correct.
on our roads?
Stony Brook.
They're all our roads.
I thought
Ours.
there's-
They're-
They're predominantly all our roads.
Yeah, well, that's what
I don't understand. Are they defining rejuvenation as seal coating?
That's what I was.
That's my,
Waste of
my
money.
understanding as well.
Waste of money.
It is a waste of money. I totally agree, Joe.
Is it
Waste
a
of money.
seal?
Yeah. Well, if you're only doing it for aesthetics, it's not a waste,
It's purely aesthetic.
but it's purely aesthetics, as long as you understand that.
Yeah, this is not a seal coating.
It's
I
not-
want to say
yeah.
that. And it's quite different. A seal coating is an oil base, usually tar
But
mix
with
or
sand,
something.
though.
Could be
You can
oil
get
or
it
with
with sand. This is a substance that is, it's somewhat of their own formula. There are companies that go out and do this, and it does rejuvenate the road, number one. Number two, I wish that Chris Capiello was here. He is the HOA president. He had articles from the people who oversee Monroe County and the road that runs through the Keys. And they have done 100 miles of the primary road out to the end of Key West because it was so successful, and it was done about 2 years ago. And they are coming back and going to do the rest of the road, which I think is over 200 miles of road, as I recall, he said. And the individual in, down in Naples, what the county, the individual who's in charge of some of the work done on the county roads outside of Naples, in the Naples area, contacted them and contacted the same company that we're using. We did get bids from several companies that did this over a year and a half ago and backburned it because of the COVID incidents. But the fact is that he is interested in doing it in county roads in, what's the name of the county? Collier County. I'm drawing a blank, at a block. In any case, he was looking and doing this in Collier County roads, the same exact treatment that we're looking at. And the reason we weren't willing to do the entire road is because it would exceed our ability to pay with our normal budget that we have, number one. Number two, we wanted to see ourselves how it worked in a year or two and possibly come back and revisit it in the future. Now, until you've seen this treatment, and I know that Flavia has some experience, there are two communities.
Is that the same community?
Yes.
It's actually what they use at the airport runways. It's not seal coating it out.
Yeah.
Actually, it's a little bit more, they use it in Collier County, West Palm Beach, Tampa Airport.
Does it extend the life
It
of the
does,
life?
it does.
Yeah.
We actually contacted the people that did our reserve studies to make sure that we could use reserves monies to do such a thing. And it's not like seal coating. Daniels Preserve also did it because they did it first. So we went there and they did it twice already.
Using the
And
same
the
product
same
in
product.
Daniels Preserve.
And then Daniels Preserve, and that's what made, and then I visited 2 other communities in West Palm Beach. And then we did it. So we did it about 4 years ago. And so it's,
So the HOA, your HOA did
my
it?
HOA did it. It's totally different, the seal coating.
And
What's
your
the
HOA's
frequency?
proposing
Well,
to do
it's
it?
going to be through the committee, the Stony Brook money that goes into the committee budget that we have, and we'll be paying out of that budget.
We just went through this last year over at ours and we threw it out simply because they would not guarantee us the service life. We go in and mill, and obviously milling and resurfacing is
It's
running about a
expensive.
10 to 1.
Yeah.
10 to 1.
At least.
And you get a 25-year life. This, we were told, you might get 5, but to keep 5, you have to do it
Every
every 5
third year or
years or
fourth year.
whatever the number.
Yeah.
And
Well-
that is what we said, hey,
Yeah.
wait a minute, you look at time value of money and now all of a sudden, this isn't the best way to
Well,
go.
we have a number of neighborhoods within Pelican that seal, but they do it purely for aesthetics.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they pay for it out of their HOA and nobody cares.
That
And
purely
once,
is.
you-
And-
and once you start sealing, you can't stop it because then it looks worse.
Yeah.
And
So-
the gentleman that
it's-
came in, he said because like the treatment that they did at Daniels, it was a little bit different than ours because depending the shape of a road at the moment, like we needed to have some repairs plus that service. They didn't have to need any repairs. So if you, the sooner you start, kind of the better, because then it will extend more. But
But if an HOA wants to do it and they're spending
Yeah.
their money, so be it.
Well, it's basically, they're spending our money to do their roads. It's
No, if
our
not- if
roads.
It's not their money,
It's
their
their money.
budget.
Yeah, well, it's coming, it doesn't,
the
nobody
004
else,
budget.
nobody else in Gateway pays for it. They pay for it themselves.
Yeah.
yes.
Just like
Coming
you
out of
do.
the 004
That's just
fund.
like our budget.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And they're willing to pay for it, then fine. But right now, it does not come out of the Pelican budget.
No.
It does not come out of the O2 account at all. It is purely paid for
HOA.
by individual
HOA.
HOAs.
Yeah.
Joe, this is another one that I had, talked to several engineers. I couldn't get an engineer. Now, I'm not totally up to speed on yours.
Mm.
I could not get an engineer that would stamp the use of that product.
I
wouldn't
will,
do it.
I will say this, that it's a relatively new, there's not a lot that have experience with it. And there is research out there you can look at and get some reinforcement, as Fabio was saying. But I do want to say this, one of the first things they tell you is that if you seal your road, we will not do this process. That, sealing in this process are
You mean
entirely
pure seal
different.
coat?
Yeah, the regular seal coat that everybody's thinking about.
So they don't put
Maybe
this
they're
over top
thinking
of the
that's
seal
what
coat?
we're
You
doing.
can't.
You cannot.
Okay. All right.
The other one is, you've got a guy that used to live there. I don't know if he still does. You know Ted Trish?
Yes, I do.
Ted Trish is a transportation engineer.
Mhm.
I'd talk to Ted. Maybe get some free engineering
I,
advice.
and in fact, his wife was on my Comcast committee. It was very helpful.
Yeah.
I
Ted,
mean,
Not a
it
problem.
may be worth just to setting up some time and just having Tetra Tech take a look.
Yeah, we had them engage their national guy.
Yeah.
Wasn't done out of the
Just,
local office.
just because it could be,
And
I
they
mean, it could be
gave
a
us-
pilot, a good pilot.
They gave us a
for
written report.
just from a district perspective. I mean, we've got some examples.
Yeah.
You guys have
Because
done it.
this product actually doesn't stay on top. What it actually does, and I'm going by soul memory, your memory probably better than mine at this point. It actually goes up to 1 to 1.5 inches into the asphalt, and then it rebinds with heat and
So
with the cars
penetration.
going
Yeah.
by. So the longer that stays, the more it rebinds but then I guess there were different types of asphalts that they use. So they had to come in, take a little piece of the asphalt, do the study, and then tell us exactly
What's
where
the
they
one?
could.
What's
do
it
it.
called?
Is it one and
What's it called
done?
again?
One application, you're done forever, or is it?
No.
No.
What they were saying about the 5-year span, if you want to continue to preserve the road, they say that a treatment lasts we'll preserve the road an additional 5 years. If you want to continue, you've got to come back. The comment, and they probably told you this, is that the better the condition of the road, the more effective it is.
It is.
And
you don't want any
and
They
structural
came back on the
problems.
5 years and told us we didn't need it.
How did you get bids on this if there's only one guy?
there are
that's-
more than one. There are several
More than one
companies that
company
do
that does
this,
it.
yes. This probably is the best known. In fact, the woman who owns the company, I believe, is in charge of some organization that oversees this kind of
She's on the
work.
committee
Yeah,
for
and I don't recall her name.
this.
What's the product name?
They call it I'm sorry?
Do you want me to grab the proposal?
Sure, if you don't mind.
Pavement conditioning, pavement dressing conditioner is what they put on. You can buy that at probably Home Depot and Kohl's, 5-gallon jar jugs to do the stuff. But like
And that's relatively new.
Flavia said, on my seal coat, it's supposed to sink into the macadam.
Interacts with the compound and then-
Or the seal coat, it's just a coating across the
Yeah,
top.
you're basically painting the top of the road.
Yeah, it just covering the stuff up there. And it's been in operation, probably more than a lot of people realize, because it was used at first by airports to do their runways and stuff, and that's how it all got started. But it has moved quite a bit. A lot of companies are using it, and they mix it with the dressing, they mix it with the asphalt itself now. When they put new asphalt down, they'll put some of that.
To enhance the
Mhm.
Pebblebrook, is he just doing Pebblebrook?
Just Pebblebrook.
They call it a pavement dressing conditioner. PDC, yeah.
Okay. And then the plan is to absorb this for what, the next year or two, and then if it
If
it
it looks
works, then
good,
you
then it'd
do it
be up to
across.
whoever is running the show to reevaluate and consider if we want to do it on other roads.
What's their price estimate per square yard?
Well, what they're doing more than that. We have about a mile of road we're going to be doing, and the cost was, I believe, was up a little bit because the cost of everything is up right now, and there is oil product apparently in it. And I think it was like 22,000, almost 23,000
23 plus 3,300 for.
road
Mobilization.
repair.
Yeah.
You have a
Yeah.
square foot price?
This doesn't break, I am looking at the. quote.
5,000 feet?
It's $23,000 and it doesn't have a square foot price on there.
We can
There,
tell
there
you
are
exactly
two
what
additional
they're-
quotes for repairs before they start the work.
Because we
Two
generally
different
express it
types of
in
repair,
square
two
foot.
different ways of going.
116,000 square feet, 23,000, so it's about what, 20 cents a square foot?
Yeah, the seal coat ranges from 10 to 16.
Yeah, this is not seal coat. This
And
is.
No, no, I
did
understand.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
guys decide on the type of repair that they needed? Because they gave us two options for the ones we had.
That's correct. We're going to go with the actual, more
Real-
permanent repair.
That's what we did too.
Yes.
And that's what Daniel
So
did.
you're,
They come in and they take a good chunk layer, then they repair it, and then they put the product instead
Yeah.
of.
only in
coming
the repair areas?
Only
or
in the
across?
repair
In the
areas.
damaged areas of the road.
So they mill
And
it.
some of that goes all the way back to the beginning of the final paving. that was not a good
It'll
job.
be interesting to see what you come up
Yeah,
with.
and
on
you
it.
got the money in your budget?
Yes.
What we did notice
Will
a
that be
lot
on
is,
would that be on the next board agenda for us to?
We don't normally have you
We don't
guys
have to
vote
approve
because
that.
it's their fund. So
And
they're moving the money around inside their own fund. So normally like with Pelican, the board doesn't vote on that. Well, no, there's no, normally
It's a budget item.
it's their unassigned,
Well, I mean,
capital fund.
to me, it's impacting our roads. So I think I'm glad it's here for awareness, but I don't know how the rest of the board feels about.
I like,
I'm gonna check it out.
yeah, if
I'm
it
not
works.
aware of it.
If it
we're
works.
happy to come on in, take a look.
Okay.
We do
But
it.
when are they
But
gonna
I
be starting?
tell
But I
you,
really like your pay for it.
yeah,
When are they gonna be
trust me,
starting
I
it, Joe?
understand that. What's that?
When are they gonna be starting?
Right now, one of the reasons we're trying to get it going, because I want to do it during dry season, they're already booking out into the winter. And so the sooner we get it going, I would say probably February, maybe at this point in time, if we can get it in. And if you want to take a look at what's happened, and both Chris and I have been over to Barbee's community, we checked the roads over there. And
Same
they look
company,
pretty good.
same company?
Yes.
and then Daniels is 5 years ahead of me, so they had 2 treatments. So you can actually see what 2 treatments will look like,
That's good.
what 1 treatment will look like. And what we did
And you've done
notice,
one, right?
we got 1, and then they said in 5 years, we'll come back and assess it. Most likely you're gonna need it. But they came back and said, you can actually wait a little longer. What we did notice is because we did it so soon, our community is 2008. The small cracks, the static cracks that they didn't need a repair, they actually closed up. With the bind, because from people driving the heavy trucks, we only had 1 issue of the front one doing the lake restoration with the barge, but otherwise it didn't.
And you paid for it out of your HOA?
It's interesting. Okay,
Capital
thanks,
reserve.
Joe. Let's.
All
Hey,
right.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just say one thing, I guess my main concern is that this has to be done every 5 years to keep up with it. So we're going to spend approximately $30,000 out of the 004 fund, which is resident money that's been taxed to maintain these roads. And I would just want to make sure it's the most prudent thing to do. Are we going to have to revisit this in 5 years again when the roads may be deteriorated in 5 years? So we're just going to extend them for 5 years for $30,000 when we might be better off doing a more of a rehabilitation project in 5 or 7 years from now, depending on what a engineering study might say.
Like a conversation that should be held at the Stony Brook Advisory Committee meeting.
With their capital reserve
Yeah,
company.
I mean, that's an internal Stony Brook issue.
Yeah.
If they want to do it.
Right, and I brought
representatives. I, for one, am not.
I brought it up to the advisory committee previously, about a year or so ago, and they didn't seem to feel the need that an engineering study was necessary. But I know that when you're going to do a road project, it's important to have an engineer's recommendations to rely upon as far as what needs to be done.
Yeah, well, to Ed's point, you've got an expert in Stony Brook. Probably a good idea to leverage that expertise. But yeah, okay. Thanks, Chad.
Okay, so we'll have them leverage those expertise. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, Laura?
Yeah, Matt Chitwood has a short public comment on an agenda item, 2 agenda items, the pool use rental fee and the lake bank cost.
Good afternoon. 2 quick comments. One, sorry, I'm getting some feedback. I don't think we need to put a rental fee on the use of the pool. I don't think the amount of money that would be generated there is worth the time and effort and just the aggravation from the few people that are renting it. Secondly, I appreciate putting in all the costs from the lake bank maintenance project that's been going on the last 5 years. Kind of really opens my eyes as far as where the money's being spent, how it's being spent, and how many lakes have been rebanked. I just want to say thank you for putting that in the agenda, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt. Okay, moving on. District Attorney. Any updates?
I think Tony's gonna be dialing in. He just texted me asking for the phone number. So can we maybe just give him a minute to get
we'll
called
push
in?
past. Tetra Tech District Engineer.
Good afternoon. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Stephen Agapi, Tetra Tech District Engineer. We have 2 items on the agenda today, and I'm going to give a brief update on some of the ongoing projects. The force main on Griffin and Gateway Boulevard is wrapping up. They're working on restoration, and they have to grout the old force main still, but that project is winding down right now.
Stephen,
Yes, sir.
has anybody made contact with DOT on the road? The bump has gotten
That's a
significant.
good question for Fred. I'm not sure.
It's really, I am afraid, if we don't call them, they're gonna think we're trying to sneak one over on them, especially if we try to close this thing out without them having knowledge. I mean, if you're not holding the steering wheel, you hit the bump now, it'll take the car out of your
It's
hands.
bad.
It's
I
bad.
thought Kenny was gonna reach out.
Is that where we board?
That's where we.
Yes, yeah.
And you know, my concern there is there a bigger issue?
It's bigger
that's where
than
I'm at.
from day one. Do you agree with that? From day
It's
one,
gotten a
Well,
lot.
because I
and now
remember
it's
when
worse.
Ed, when you had mentioned something to Kenny said Supervisor Tingle had noticed something, and I looked, and it was getting kind of dark, so it was a little harder to tell. But if it's gotten worse,
Oh,
then
it's
there's
definitely got
and there's
worse.
something going on.
Larger and deeper, I'll say.
I just don't want any closeouts. If we're doing a punch list, we put that depression on the punch list. And then I think before they take and offer any method of correcting it, let's get Lee County out. That is their road. And we got a permit to do what we're doing. The last thing we need to do is have them come back on us if we somehow, some way would excuse the contractor for the issue. I don't want to get caught
Well,
in that.
and I think it'd be worth reaching out to the contractor to come out, take a look at it. Have you experienced anything like this, and what could it potentially be?
Well, I believe the conversation that Kenny had with him is if the county says we need to fix it, we'll fix it. So I wouldn't want to leave up to the contractor. I would have.
No, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
The contractor, if they had seen something like this, and what potentially might be root cause. Now they might just say, "Oh no, whatever."
I don't know if that conversation took place.
I just
Now,
don't,
forever hold your peace, but let everybody look.
yeah, I just don't want the county coming back and thinking we tried to slip one over on them by not telling them
No,
about.
if we don't address it now, you know,
Yeah.
if it gets worse, then
It's
it's our issue. Okay.
I just asked Fred via text if he knows any more. I'll update you if he gets back to me while we're talking. On the second roundabout at Griffin and Gateway, we just got an updated schedule today from the county's engineer. They plan on starting construction in like April or May for that project. We
How long
also are working.
How long will that
Go
run?
ahead.
Will that be a year or?
It'll probably take as long as this previous roundabout has taken, so more or less.
About 7 months, 7, 8 months.
Well, it was shortened by the fact that we closed the road.
Yeah.
And that,
4 weeks or more.
yeah,
right?
and that helped. Yeah, I think you're right, about 4 weeks. That's going to be a little bit more difficult on Griffin Drive. I don't know how you close that road. It's going to be a tough one. You can do it, but there's going to be some angry people.
One side would be easy because they'll just go through behind the sushi, going that way. But when you have to close it out,
Yeah.
So one side I don't think is gonna be necessarily a problem because it'd be easy detour. You're just gonna go behind there and get out by the skinny dog.
Or the other one is they're going to cut through the
7-Eleven.
gas station.
You know that.
Yeah,
7-Eleven
coming.
is, that's why I
what's
think
coming.
we're gonna have a problem because they're gonna be cutting through 7-Eleven.
All right, Stephen, go ahead.
All right. So on the flowway weirs, we got another RAI from South Florida. We're just wrapping that up. They had minor comments on some elevations on the operating schedule, so we'll get that into them in the next week or two, and then that should wrap that up, and then we can move forward with putting some bid documents together. And on Pond 38, we have surveying scheduled, and we're going to move forward with design and hopefully get that one caught up and done as soon as possible. Lake 93 is currently in construction. This is in Timber Ridge, right at Griffin and Gateway Boulevard. Contractor Met Tower has been hauling in fill dirt into the lake along the lake bank, and they're moving along. They just caught up to the point where we talked about doing that change order. So we're hoping to get that change order approved that we talked about last week, and they can continue moving forward. On the next round of lake banks, we're wrapping up the bid documents. I hope to have a set of bid docs drafted and ready for everyone's review next week, and I'll send that over to Gateway staff for review and comments, and then we can move forward with that. That's it for my updates. We have 2 items on the agenda, 2 task authorizations. The first one is for the wastewater modeling update. This will take the existing model, we'll add all the new improvements that have happened since the last time. We'll re-update all of the lift station drawdown test and update any of the pump curves that have changed. And this will be a new, robust wastewater model.
Question?
Yeah, Todd, or who we got? Stephen.
Yes, sir.
On the hydraulic modeling, are you going to do every one of the pump stations and force mains? Or are you only going to do the ones that are interconnected into the main skeleton that feed the plant?
All the ones that are manifolded will definitely be involved. I'm not sure if we spell out any of the ones that are, well, how many of them are not tied into the force main? I know there's one in Daniels Preserve.
I think we got like
that are just
28, 29, 30 pump stations. And I'm going to guess that half of those pump into a gravity sewer line that then feeds another pump station that pumps into the skeleton. I'm only
I mean,
worried
either way, we'll need that information for the model. We'll want to know how much is coming into, those downstream lift stations.
Okay. Well, that's not a bad idea. Then the other one is, will you also analyze how the system will work when the new force main up the FPL Easement gets put in? So we already have seen a picture. Kenny had said something to me that he's seeing less run times at Stony Brook. Well, what that tells me is that when we put in that 16-inch force main, we significantly reduced the head on the pump, and the pumping rate went up. And so the run time goes down. I'm expecting to see that more and even more drastically in other stations if we can get in that FPL Easement line. But what my question is, are you going to analyze that as a part of this hydraulic study?
We do include existing and projected conditions in our in the analysis, like once the modeling has been calibrated.
That's all I got.
Okay. And with these 2 task authorizations, these are just updates, right? There's no, do we have to action on these? These have to be approved?
Well, I don't know whatever happened to that one on October 2018. That's like that document fell into a black hole.
Which one was that?
Last meeting, I don't know that it was ever even presented to the board. But so I don't know if we want to call it an update or a revision, but it certainly is a new document.
So it's probably important to go ahead and at least for the record.
Oh yeah, I'd make a motion that we're going to handle these separately.
Yeah.
I'd make a motion that we authorize task 2022-03, the hydraulic modeling update for the wastewater collection system.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Assuming that you've authorized me to vote.
Yes, sir. We have.
You have.
I had us muted.
Yep, you're good to go, Bill.
Thank you.
All right, the second task authorization is for bond validation. This is for the public works CIP projects, which are numerous. This will allow us to gather information from staff and provide an opinion of whether or not they would qualify for a capital improvement project. And then we'll provide that report. And this also gets us through any public hearings or public involvement that's required for the bond.
And Stephen, this is Tony. I also recall it also talks about there's a not to exceed for the validation, which would include preparation, document preparation, attendance at hearing if necessary, and also your engineer's report will contain an opinion of probable costs or estimate of probable costs.
That is correct.
Thanks.
Motion to approve task authorization 2022-04.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Any additional questions for Tetra Tech?
I do. Did we ever get back about us having the ability to lower the weirs, the hydraulic weirs at the golf course? I know, I don't know if it was Bob was gonna reach out with Laura and then you guys gonna talk to Southwest Florida, that we will be able to do it instead of having to wait for them every time that we needed it.
Was that where we had the discussion because those are internal and it doesn't affect anything? So Southwest Florida would not have to tell us yes or no? I think that's what we're gonna verify that that was
Yeah.
the case.
Heretofore, we've had to contact them
Okay,
You
ahead
had
of
to.
hurricanes.
okay, I will take that.
Okay. That's all.
The impact reason why they've given us is that we could make things a little bit more complicated down at Bob's since it does go downhill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I have.
Okay.
I had one thing for
Yes.
the board, and I've asked Stephen to look into this, but they finally put in the road, the multimodal path on the other side of the tree line for us, as it affects the community going in. And they only did just that much. My concern was that we are inches off of tree line. There's no buffer. There's no greenscape, no nothing. And I just want to make sure that that's up to all the existing for safety, because I can just picture a golf cart or a bicyclist going down there and there's no give.
A lot of places in Lee County that's that away, and I look at it and shake my head. Up north, you don't get away with that.
So anyway, to be aware that he's looking into that, he's going to give me an answer back.
Okay, district manager report.
Mr. Chairman, Board, continue to try and update you on my activities as we get coordinated in the office and in the field. And I sent you an email earlier this week with some of the projects I'm working on. And then next week, I have a number of meetings lined up to continue coordinating with people to find out the various functions of the district, what's going on, who's handling what. That's about it for now. Any questions?
And I was hoping to have it completed today, but I've got, the company that I work for, I've got someone in our analytics that's pulling some national data for the district manager position. So we're running district manager, city manager, county manager, assistant district manager, assistant county manager, assistant city manager, county planner, city planner. So all these various titles. And looking at doing supply and demand studies to see what's available in Florida. We'll do regional and national compensation. Comp might be a little all over the place because it'll give us a range, but it's looking for even things like community development district. Trying to hone down to what is more like for us. But as soon as I get it, I'll send it to Gary and Laura, and I'll have them distribute it out to the board so we can kind of see what analytics we have around that piece. But again, I think our primary concern is still district manager, business manager. I know we're trying to get some input from Scott on what that public works position might look like. I don't think that's been finalized, so maybe if we can continue. I mean, we're in not a big hurry for that position, other than any vacancy from my perspective is at risk. And we may need a certain role today, but I would encourage us to always be looking at what we would need tomorrow rather than today. So we are putting people in position either for growth or anticipating the needs of the district, down the road a little bit. So.
Okay.
All right, and Laura, we'll go to you, Assistant District Manager.
Okay, I have a few updates. I want to follow up a little bit on the discussion you just have. I reached out to the human resource departments at both the city of Cape Coral and the city of Fort Myers, looking for information to see if maybe they'd be willing to share how they would go about recruiting somebody in a district manager role. I have not heard back from them yet, but I did reach out to both of those. The First Horizon loan is going to come up. Tony has some more information on that too. He's on his way in. So there's some paperwork to sign today. We've been going back and forth between Stephen, Tony, and I, and First Horizon regarding the loan. So we finalized the terms that's all ready to sign. Regarding the palm trimming in the area, I know Jim's not here, but he and I have been talking about what's going on with that. We've paid them approximately 58% of their contract so far, and they've only trimmed about 48% of the palm trees, so I'm holding payment until they get caught up. They are aware, they have not even questioned it. They will not be back in Gateway until next week, the week of the 6th, and they're planning to just go at it hard for a couple of weeks to try to get caught up. The license plate readers.
And I would just say, and I think Jim is doing this, but let's just make sure we stay on top.
He
of it.
is,
Yeah.
and I'm staying on top of him and he's staying on top of them, so yep. License plate reader update, there was just a couple of final tweaks yet to the contract wording, and I'll be able to get that signed and get that going. So Tony and I have been going back and forth, and then I've been passing it on to the vendor, and they've been doing theirs, and we've been kind of going back and forth. We have just a couple small things to tweak yet.
And this might be a stretch, but we might want to reach out to our insurance company. Just to see if there's any additional benefit in having something of that regard. It may or may not.
Did not think of that, but I will ask them. I'll reach out to my contact there. The modular repairs, the mold issue on the half of the building where, on the ramp half of the building, the mold is all removed from that side of the building. Everything is taken out. They'll be moving to the other side of the building starting on Monday and getting the mold removed from that side. And once all the mold is out, then they will start the repair. So I imagine it'll be a couple weeks yet before they get to that.
And what I would say on that, the board is not aware. We had a mold issue in the.
Both of the jar lights next to the doors were leaking for a very long time before we knew that they were leaking. The fire extinguishers fell off the wall, which is how we found out that there was water behind them. So yeah, they had been leaking for a while. And so there was quite a bit of mold in there, but it was very contained. It didn't stretch as far back as they were worried that it might have based on how long it had been leaking. It was contained just to the door areas.
This is over
So, the modular.
annex.
And it was
Yeah.
past the
Did you
warranty.
see the mushrooms?
They're gone.
mushrooms
The mushrooms are
They're
gone.
like
on the
this
walls.
big.
They
So
were
my
pretty-
point of that is,
And I did
again,
file a claim, so.
yeah, nothing for us to do today, but that was, it was a short-term fix for what will be a long-term problem when it
And
comes to.
yeah, it'll cost us about $20,000 to $30,000 for repairs. It's $10,000 just to remove the mold, and it's another 10 to 20 to put everything back the way
Yeah.
it was.
So it may not be an issue for this board right now, but probably in the next 2 years, there's going to have to be some type of permanent or maybe long-term solution around just overall facilities planning for here. So again, maybe not our problem, maybe for some, we'll see.
The easement signature update, we did get approval via email to finish the work that we needed to along Griffin Drive. There's just a couple small clauses that need to be ironed out yet, and I'll have that paperwork in hand. Tony he can probably give a better update. He said right now his ETA is 4:30. He'll be here by 4:30.
Okay.
So he knows a little more about exactly what's going on with that. I did repost the business manager job on Tuesday, so I'll see if I get any responses from that. That was per your direction from the last time. And Stephen had his update about the bond validation costs. I did talk to Russ as far as doing the assessment methodology for the repayment for the bonds. And he estimated that he didn't put together a formal proposal, but he told me about $10,000 for his portion for the bond part of it. And then I do have a walk-on item. I guess I can wait until Tony gets here. When we signed the paperwork for the SRF loan for the construction of the lakes, I neglected to have the resolution to allow us to borrow the money signed. And so I have that here today to be signed.
Yeah, and I do want to compliment Laura on just trying to get creative on how we're to fill some of these positions. And what she has been doing is kind of looking at any other areas that have been hiring similar type positions, district manager, operations manager, things of that nature, and researching some of those minutes. We've uncovered some locations that have hired individuals recently, and looking, because that's public record of the finalists and the candidates. So, building a short list based on what is readily available through public record. So,
Good. And I did have the arborist. I've been talking to Ronnie. He was the arborist that came in and did the report when Personal Touch was back in August. He gave me a quote of $2,250 to come in and give us 6 tree or palm replacement options for the area on Gateway Boulevard where we took all those oak trees out. And
So putting 6 palms there?
no,
Or
six
options?
options,
Oh, okay,
6
all right.
tree or palm replacement options. He said the
Do we
proposal will
need
give us
6?
that.
That seems a little,
It was just give us things to choose from. He
Okay.
did also recommend, and it was gonna be my recommendation as well, and he happened to email doing that, that we, I will put together a price if you're interested in it. Contracting with him, he said it would be less expensive for us to have a contract with him and he would be more at our disposal going forward if we would be
so just
interested in
do
doing that.
an annual consulting.
Yes, if you're interested, I can talk to him about what that would cost. I did not go any further into it.
He's aware that we have the FPL easement in there and
Yep.
trees have to be less than 15 feet.
Yep. He knows all that.
Yeah, I'm
He's been
all in
very,
favor for having
very easy to
an
work
annual
with.
arborist as a consultant. I think with everything that we do and as sensitive as that subject is, to say that,
And as much as we have to do.
and as much as we have to do, I
Right.
think so I would definitely get a quote there.
Okay.
6 options might be,
I think
I'm not-
3.
I wouldn't expect 6. I mean, 3 would be okay. I think for me, the biggest question is which side do we plan on?
Well, he said that it will be, that also includes an aerial map showing the location each tree will be planted. Planting specs will be outlined to ensure the overall success of the trees and surrounding infrastructure. Each tree recommendation will include information on the tree's rate of growth, mature tree size, tree's usual health and or pest issues, and maintenance needing based on long-term cost.
And I just have a quick question. So if we go past Stony Brook and we hit the emergency road cut through, is basically, so from Stony Brook entrance down to Hidden Lakes. That property is not ours, right? We don't own anything on that side, correct?
Yes.
What do you mean?
On the
construction
On
On the west side?
the west side, because that's,
What's in our district,
yeah, but I mean,
actual ownership, the only thing that we would own would be if we get Tony to get the dedication of the FPL easement.
so
Other than
the
that,
easement was
that's
the
it.
open area for
The
the
open
most
area.
part, but then where there's trees, is that owned by the landfill?
That's yeah,
Is that-
landfill.
I'm sure my whole point of that is, I mean, I don't know if we have any capability, but on that side, it seemed like if we could mimic the berm on the other side, that would be really nice. But if I don't know if would even allow something like that. I mean, even if it's just like a 5-foot berm and you do plantings to create, a little bit of a buffer, but I'm only throwing it out because I don't know if that is even a possibility.
What the talk was that on the FPL or the emergency road committee was looking at the possibility of using something like the Calusa along that area, which is the one they call the signature plant where you can write your name in the deal. That you can maintain the height. You can take that thing up to 15 feet if you want, or you get it 10 feet. The idea is the one that meets the FPL requirement that we keep it below 15. The other one is once it gets mature, you don't see through that. I mean, it's thick. And that whole FPL that right now is an eyesore full of exotics and needs to be fixed. We could basically hide.
Well, and the reason why I
Just
say
hide
that is because I go up and down that road quite a bit, and you get shading from the trees, and that one open area, there's no shading. And that's what.
Are you talking about this area?
Yeah. Yep.
That's WCI. This one and this one.
Yeah, that's the one we're trying to get. us
So
to
is
have.
that the one that you're asking?
Yeah,
that-
'cause when that open space, I was thinking to mimic the berm on the opposite side, but I don't know if we have the
But see,
ability.
when you enter from the north coming south.
Yeah.
You've got trees all along the dump.
Yeah. Right.
Then you hit the open area all the way, and keep in
And
mind.
then you
that's-
got that metal, that rickety.
Gate looking thing?
Yeah.
Yeah,
fencing
well, that's
that-
gonna be fixed, but keep in mind that FPL easement's about 660 feet perpendicular. When you go at a skew across it, now it's like 800 feet that borders up to the next set of trees that is essentially by Prado. And then you get the trees in that undeveloped little triangular piece of property all the way to Hidden
Yeah,
Lakes.
yeah.
The reason you almost have to keep any trees on the west side of the road is the east side of the road, they put in that 4 lanes, and any tree you put in is gonna be gone.
Yeah. Well, and the only reason I bring this up is if we've got the arborist putting proposals together, I think it would be nice for him to know what's possible, what's not. other than just trees himself, but, you know, is a berm possible?
Well, I think
there?
maybe
Or-
there needs to be a pre-meeting with him before he goes out and writes a report of at least make sure that he understands what our thoughts are
Yeah.
on this thing long-term.
Yeah, maybe that's, if we could do that, Laura, before he
Sure.
jumps off, maybe we just.
He said, speaking rates or any to come board meetings or anything are $200 an hour with a 4-hour minimum.
It's $800. I'd like to do it by 11.
If you, yeah, I can,
Well,
I
I
can
mean, can't we could probably just,
craft an email.
Zoom it.
yeah, we could just have a Zoom meeting with staff, and if one of us wants to sit in on it, that's fine. I don't really care.
Just
who does.
something so that he knows what, I don't want him to come back with a
Absolutely.
report. Why didn't you tell me that beforehand?
Totally agree.
Okay.
And if we have
Oh.
any specific thoughts on trees or ideas, just send that over to Laura.
Yeah, forward that to me. I'll compile everything and get that to you.
Okay.
I do have one more thing I had in my folder. We did have the bid opening yesterday for the maintenance of the stormwater ponds. I got with Al today. I wasn't here because I was downtown for the hearing on the emergency access road. But she has not had a chance to thoroughly review the bids yet, but we do have.
Do you know how many we have?
4.
We have 4. Okay.
Yep. It was Solitude, the new Aquagenics, DCS, Cross Creek, which is where most of the people from Aquagenics went, and Metar.
What was the total price range?
It went anywhere from 185,000 up to 347. We have a potential candidate, but we need to review everything. So
Okay. All right. Okay, Laura, thank you.
that's everything on my list.
Okay, awesome.
Penny does not have an update.
Okay. And I think I saw Leslie. Yes.
Hello, Leslie Victoria, Utility Billing Manager. Just have an update on the credit card processing fee. So customers who choose to pay their water bill, they currently have a credit card processing fee of 1% of the balance. That's being raised to 1.35. I do an analysis semi-annually, but I'm going to try just annually once a year to review that and update that accordingly. Newsletter, I know that was an option, topic that we discussed in the past. I've got some pricing on, I don't know if that's on there. But the 2-page newsletter costs about just under $800. And I already am doing about 2 newsletters, utility related, a year. So I've spoken with Georgia, and we're gonna collaborate on doing a general, so I'll review everything within Gateway. And
Through that too, or supplement addition?
that would be, we could supplement addition.
Okay.
Do we only do the hard copy mailing? Is there an electronic version? we
Yes,
can get
everyone,
Everybody free?
yeah, everyone gets it on their bill. Who has
Okay.
e-bill, who sets
Matter of
up.
fact,
for-
Okay, so
They
it's
just
not a
came out
separate
like-
mailing. It's going out with the bill.
Yeah, it's going out with the bill,
And that's already budgeted, right?
Okay.
right.
Yeah.
I usually budget 2 to 3
And
mailings a year,
we've done one this physical year, right?
correct,
Okay. So the second one, you're saying you'll incorporate more
correct.
utilities,
We'll
but
do more
also more general. Okay.
general.
That'd be a great.
And I'll be working with Georgia and Laura on compiling that information.
Yeah, Pelican puts them out, but they put it out electronically, and hard copies are available for the residents, like coming over to the district office or the pool, but they don't print the whole
Print it,
community for
right.
that.
And that's one of the options I had mentioned in my notes, that we could do that every bill cycle and have it for those residents who've elected e-bill or electronic copies. So they'll always get a copy of a newsletter. About 75% of our residents get their bills through email.
Okay, good.
That's all I had for now.
And that's just
There's-
something as we, again, probably for next year's budget is if we want to do more frequent than 2, we would just need a budget for that.
Right.
But I'm really excited to see what the more holistic one would look like. And even if we don't do a hard copy, even just doing a digital one, you know, as a supplemental, because we don't have budgeting for hard copy for another one. Let's see how this one rolls, and then we
Right.
can always do that.
So I'll work with Georgia on that.
Great.
Any questions?
Follow up on, you were looking at a platform. I think you made an update.
The cartograph.
Oh, the
We're gonna talk about
cartograph,
that
it's an
later.
agenda item?
Yeah, we'll talk about that
Oh, it is?
later.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
I do have a question in the newsletter. Would we be able to offset the cost by getting sponsors and doing some ads?
I don't know if
Is it-
we
I don't know
I don't know
if
if
we
we
do that.
I don't
That
think we
came
can-
up
Yeah, I
once
don't think we
before.
can.
We had that
We'll
question.
ask, we'll follow up with Tony on that,
When he
but I
gets
think we
here,
had talked
yeah.
about sponsor or ads before, and I think there was some issues. with it.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember that too.
But, you know, it's a good idea. Okay. Thank you, Leslie.
Mhm.
Okay, Scott, we'll go to you.
Good afternoon, Scott Connell, interim project manager. I have in the agenda just a list of updates for informational purposes. Some of the projects underway or in the process. If you have
Is that
any
the right one?
questions. Correct.
Okay.
Any issues with, any concerns with any of these projects as far as?
None that we're looking at here on the list. Some are further along than others, like the Lake Bank Stabilization 93. Daniels Preserve drainage concerns. I've been in touch with Holmontes, Rick Berlansky, and Tom Murphy, giving me a proposal so I can do a joint field data as-built survey with the dive crew to come out at the same time the survey crew's there and pick up the data necessary on 4 of the lake interconnects. So we can put this thing, so we know exactly what's existing.
Yeah.
From the invert of the pipe going out into the lakes. And then we'll once we know what's there, then we'll determine a proper
What
solution.
the fix is.
Yes, absolutely. So hopefully we'll have that in the next 2 to 3 weeks before the end of the month is my goal. So
There was some recent chatter out in some of the social spaces around what we dump over by the pool.
I took care of that.
Okay. Did you post something out?
I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, I
Yep.
didn't see it. All right.
Oh, yes.
Took care of that on Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, I think it was earlier this week. There
Yeah.
was-
Yep. I saw it and I commented and lots of people gave me a thumbs up.
Okay,
So
awesome.
And then on the resurfacing the asphalt here at the Sherman Complex parking lots and things, we've bundled up the agreements and things, sent them to Tony for review, and then we'll be able to get that contract out.
What's going to be important on that is the timing.
Absolutely.
Right.
The contractor and I sat down. I gave him the next 90 days of schedules
For the
all the
leagues
fields,
and everything. Okay.
everything.
Primary work Saturday mornings.
Yeah. Those aren't good either, yeah.
Friday night,
So
Saturday.
anyway,
mornings.
and we're gonna come back and I'll keep you abreast of
Okay.
how the operations.
I figured you had that covered, but I just wanted
Yeah,
to
but
make
thank you.
sure.
What's the ballpark cost of that again?
200 and
240 or something like that?
220,
230, somewhere in there. Yep.
Scott, go back up one, the utility. Did Austin get the revised drawing done to where we can have a Zoom conference with that guy at FPL?
Well, we
So
met,
we're all on the same page of how the route we're going?
I took Fred out in the field yesterday and we walked the areas on the north end connection and we looked at the southern end. And we, unfortunately, Kenny was tied up with the health department. So we have a preliminary alignment that we sort of all agreed to, this option 1 we were looking at a week ago. We sort of firmed that up and plugged in all the conflicts. So Fred is preparing a better schematic than what I have on that right now.
Now,
So yes.
Did that option eliminate the need for wetland 53?
Right, the
We're
intent
staying
is,
south of it
correct, we're gonna turn 90 degrees, we're gonna go west, south of the wetland,
and then go over to the berm and up the berm.
and then go up the berm. I found an old document, it's a easement agreement between Gateway/Jones Communication Ltd.
That's Comcast now.
Well, yeah, exactly. And it straddles, it's 5 feet each side of that north-south boundary between the FPL and the Gateway Boulevard right-of-way. So I went out physically, I see no apparatus, no improvements in there from a data cable company. Again, we'll probably have to do some, I have to only do some research to verify, but I think it might be defunct. But it shows it up on some of the Alta surveys that we have. And so the easement still might be there, but there's no apparatus in it.
you might want to get a hold of Travis Harrison, Comcast construction guy here in Gateway. Their office is over there on, what do you call it? West Links.
Okay.
Travis Harrison, I can get you his number. He's in charge of all construction. He might have as-built drawings of what Comcast has in that area.
All right.
I
thank
know he has it too, because we used it to do the fiber to Gateway Greens, but it went only to the church. That's where we
Yeah,
crossed
now
over.
we want to go north of that, yeah.
We didn't go north. So I don't know if they have anything on the north side. We know they go across the road, but when they go across the road, I think they terminate at Hidden Links. And I don't even know that they go any further north.
Yeah, again, I saw nothing, no improvements.
And there's no symbols, no
pedestals, none of
nothing
that,
out there.
so, yeah.
Okay, good.
So we are finalizing that exhibit to get with FPL.
So we're trying to get that exhibit done and make sure that we got all of our Ps and Qs before we go to
That's right.
FPL.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Good.
Okay.
Any questions for Scott? Nope.
Okay, thank you.
Tim is not here, but I'm giving his update.
Okay, just really quick, did we happen to get any quotes for, as a follow-up to the sailing guys? They were, I didn't see any. quotes.
She reached out to a few places, as far as the docks, and people they're real
I'm not that
reluctant to
concerned about the
even
docks. Just
quote.
how about the gate, adding additional gate?
There were some concerns with the gate as well, not so much with the cost, but the fact that we're gonna have to restripe the parking lot because you have to add handicap spots by the gate and all that too, so it's gonna change the structure of the way the parking lot
Aren't
is
you
laid
paving
out.
it anyway?
Yes, and that's a good timing on our part,
Yeah.
yeah. So I didn't get a number from her, but I know that she was working on it
And I
out.
didn't see any buoys in, so I guess they hadn't put anything in yet.
They were doing that, right?
Yeah, I mean.
They were gonna do it, yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's fine. I just want to make sure that
Too.
they're not waiting on us for something.
And I did confirm, I did a ride around with Mainscape and Jim this morning, and Freddie confirmed that that gate does nothing for them. He
Okay.
said that they would not benefit from the gate. It would strictly be for the people that were gonna use the pond. He's like, there's already 2 gates over there that they use. They don't need a third.
Okay, all right. That's good. Okay, so you're on.
I am doing Tim's update, just three quick things. We did get a vendor for the filter. He found someone that came in just a little over 50,000. We did budget 60,000, so we are under budget for the filter
Yeah.
for the pool. We're getting that going. Both of the part-time guys, Mike and Alexander at the pool, took the CPO class the week the week of Thanksgiving. Alexander took and passed his test on Monday, and Mike was taking his test today. And then the kiddie pool was down for a few days, but that is now back up and running.
Okay, great.
Laura, I did have a question and I sent you the email in regards to the Gateway High School utilizing the pool for swimming for next year.
Yes.
So they formally sent me an email asking for us to either allow them or not. Tim did call me a few days ago because he wasn't sure if April or the athletics director had, time to check the pool and see if that's what they really wanted it. I spoke with them and they say they did. I explained that we only have 1 lane. They say currently they're going, I believe, to Tice, and they have lanes and stuff that they take and they would be bringing to our pool and setting it up. They would like us to come up with a decision if they would be able to use it. I did tell them, until 6 o'clock, it's not gonna happen because, during the summer, it'll be, no, we have to close at 5 because of dusk to dawn.
Sunlight.
So they say they will adjust for that, but they just want to, see what our position is for having them use the pool.
And they're willing to pay for that, right?
They're-
Or they don't know.
They didn't,
Okay.
they didn't ask or one way or another. They just say that they will be bringing whatever they need, they'll bring. And then the lanes, they'll bring the lanes, they'll set it up and they'll remove it once they're done.
Yeah, I had talked with Tim when they first inquired about it, and I don't recall the times of use so maybe we can.
3:30 to 6. And then I did talk to April, with Kathy today and I said, well, 6 is not gonna work.
And what's it for from what month to what month?
July to October.
Well, I think we need to go back and look at usage during that time period to
Mhm.
understand impact.
How many days a week?
Monday to Friday.
Oh, good Lord.
And it's for practice only, not,
From 2 to 6. Monday through Friday.
Yeah, well, and I pretty much told her it's not gonna happen. If it happens, it wouldn't happen after 6 because we cannot keep the pool open after 6.
In the summertime.
Oh, yeah, but October, I don't think.
October, it's getting dark.
Yeah.
No, it doesn't change till
No,
November.
yeah, then,
No, because we can still get
Yeah.
18 in.
yeah.
Yeah, it's good.
I was like, yeah.
The litmus test.
Yeah, priorities here.
Okay, well, I think we just need to bring it back and just with some specifics.
Well, that's what I kind of wanted Tim to
Yeah,
come to us and say, I think it's feasible. We can do it. We have the space. I don't know if they add one more lane, would be anything left for the Gateway residents to use
Well,
during
that's what
the
I was
time.
gonna say. Are they occupying the whole pool for that period of time or?
Oh, no, not the whole pool, just the 2 lanes, 2 lanes. So one we have, the other one they
I
would
mean,
have
honestly,
to
with
make
the
it.
limited amount of use, they could probably take half that pool.
Yeah.
And it would impact usage, to be quite honest.
Especially that time of the day.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, okay, well, let's have Tim just come back and just bring something more formal.
And feel them out for, what the financial incentive they might throw.
Tim can do that.
Since they short sheeted us on the assessment.
Yeah.
They don't pay anything on that.
Well, if nothing else, just to help cover operational costs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Filters and things like that.
Captain, did you have anything for today or?
Yeah,
Okay, come on, you're up.
I understand that I was requested to be here to talk about options of helping you find a district manager. But the main thing I wanted to talk about was, we gave you a proposal that you approved. I sent a email to everybody saying, this is what we see. Is there any change? And one of the tasks that we had in the proposal, and I emphasized in the email, was that we were going to analyze your staff. We're going to come back with a recommendation on, from Scott and Gary and myself, and give you a recommendation on staffing, on our observations of the effectiveness of your organization. It doesn't seem like we're moving in that direction. There's a couple positions that are being advertised right now. Those are positions that we were going to include in the analysis of what we were going to bring to you in a report. So I guess I just need to know some feedback. What does the board want us to do? And I mean, it seems like poor Gary's just sitting here and being bypassed.
I'd like to have a discussion to do just that, as where you go out, make the recommendation. Well, we have those proposals out. We haven't hired anybody.
Sure.
And I would like to have your input on this and the other subjects that you had in that proposal, inclusive of helping us going out on a national effort to try to get a district manager.
Yeah, and that's something that, I can help you with outside of the contract, and we can talk about that. But under the current contract, I just would like to know what we're expected, and that's why I sent that email trying to get some clarification. Now, I will say, I was here 6 years ago, and I had a lot of recommendations for changes at that time. And the organization today is so much different than it was 6 years ago. This is, you've got a good organization. You've got good employees. I don't think you need a reduction in employees, and things are getting done. You're meeting all your obligations. You're efficient. And I gotta say that I'm sure that the board had a very strong influence in that. But you got something that you've built that you can be proud of. So, and I'm sure Chris had some input in that too, or some effect in that. I was always impressed with Chris's skills. So, yeah, I don't know if this is a discussion for some other time through your chairman or someone represented by the board, but.
Well, I think what my expectation was is, one, we had an immediate gap that we need to fill. Actually, we had district manager, we had public works, and also with Laura's promotion, we had business manager. So there was significant gaps, which put us at substantial risk. So we needed to fill those gaps, if nothing else, just to have just a little bit of a redundancy, so things didn't go sideways. I think part of coming in is helping us maintain operational effectiveness during this time period, bring in expertise to, one, help us kind of identify and help fill these roles. But at the same time, there's even a great learning opportunity for Laura in some aspects, and even other employees. I don't think I was really looking for a deep dive in our whole operating model and our infrastructure, because to be quite honest, I felt like we're in a pretty good place. I mean, we know what the district manager should look like, what the responsibilities are. It would never hurt to have an outside opinion come in, because we have been operating in a little bit of a silo the last couple of years without having a management company to provide those checks and balances. So I wasn't really looking for an overhaul of what we have today, more kind of confirming we're moving in the right direction. And I think it's difficult for this board to tell you which direction you need to go in, other than what our district priorities are at the board level. I can't tell you how to go in and how to maintain daily functions, because we're not in the weeds there. I would have to have you lean on staff, Laura, Kenny, and those folks to help say, here's where we need help. And to Ed's point, having oversight and helping us, make sure we're validating the direction that we're going, or point out some opportunities in your observations in the first 6 weeks that you've been here is a plus. But for me, it's more day-to-day operational support. Scott has some very specific project that he's running. His area is probably a little more cut and dry than Gary's, because there's a lot of overlap. Laura had been working directly with Chris, has a lot of historical knowledge of what's going on. So that's there for more support, in my opinion. So I think as of right now, the direction would be continue moving in the direction you're going, which is providing day-to-day support, providing feedback on just observations. Now, if you look and there's something that jumps out at you, like the district manager job description, if it's off based on what the market's going to yield or your experience, and we want you to make those changes. But I feel like we've worked on that job description several times. I think directionally it's correct, for the most part. Finding that person is where the challenge is going to be, because I think you can post that job description all day long. You have better luck going and finding a unicorn out in the soccer fields, I think, than finding someone that's going to specifically fit that. So if we could get your help leveraging your network and helping us fill that position, that's important. I think with Scott's experience and him being in that seat here, helping us determine what that role is going to look like. And then ultimately, when we're looking at the business manager, just as we're identifying candidates, just help us interview and find the best staff, to fit those. And I'll stop there and let the other board members kind of weigh in on what their expectations are. But it is a little vague. I mean, we didn't give you a full punch list of things, because again, I think we were trying to leave some of that up to staff and just take more direction from a high priority perspective and go execute, because you have the experience to do that.
I'll go. Yeah, I'm totally want to get you guys involved in looking for this district manager and doing the head hunting. You know exactly what we're looking for, and you know where to look for it.
Sure.
Because we got to get people in here.
And
Mr. Chairman?
the proposal that we gave you was Gary's your district manager until we find something else.
That is correct.
Okay, and that means everybody answers
That is
to
correct.
Gary.
That
Okay,
is correct.
Yeah.
I do have a question then, because when you stated that if you would be able to look for a district manager outside of our contract, so is it your understanding that the current contract that we have with you guys does not include you looking for a manager? Because that's the statement that you made. So if that's the case, then we need to give him direction on this, an additional task that while Gary is the district manager and acting as the district manager with Laura as his assistant, period. And on a side note, you have another task to find a permanent district manager for us.
Well, he gave us a proposal to essentially do
Well, I
that and the other
mentioned
things that we
a
talked
price.
about.
Yeah, but we
proposal.
haven't agreed to that. So I guess
Yeah,
that's
that's correct.
clarification that you
Yeah.
were wanting
Sure.
from us.
Yeah.
Is that
Well,
what you're
and
asking?
let me kind of explain that. The proposal you currently have with us, we will solicit, receive, we'll advertise everywhere that we can, and we'll get all the resumes we can, and then kind of, work with the board. And, it's not an intensified search. Now, in my career as a city manager and or a county manager, I've hired police chiefs, public works directors, planners, whatever to be part of my staff. So I know how to go out and solicit and bring in that type of talent. Work with the board, and your job descriptions, from what I understand, a 5-page, that's just not going.
Yeah, but you can read through that job description with your experience and know exactly what you can summarize it in probably 30, 45 seconds.
Well, and you want to solicit resumes based on kind of a broad scope. You want to identify what type of person do you have. This experience, yes. Minimum educational requirements, yes. But you want to try and identify, are they creative? Are they able to react and bring together projects, build a team? And we can do that in a short advertisement that will get people, and then we give them a 5-page job description and say, this is what we're looking for, and we'll use that as the barometer against all the candidates as we start screening them. Now, I would expect under that type of an arrangement, it's pretty intense, the amount of time that I'd have to put into it. And that's why it's over and above what we've given you.
So let me ask you this. Okay. So if we look at, because when I look at what we have contracted Premier for, I look at it as a total package. I look at it as basically 3 resources. Maybe it's 2.5. I don't know what, how much time you spend or what you're,
I'm about right around 10 hours. So.
Okay. So I look at, we're paying for really consulting on a resource level. I don't really look at it as we have hired, a public works project manager or a district manager or, whatever you would call yourself in this. I don't really look at it in those terms, to be quite honest. Because when you do that, now I've got to start looking at each individual's output, what they're responsible for, and I don't really want to get in the weeds on that. Because I'm very clear on what Scott is managing. Gary's is going to be a little bit more loose, from an oversight perspective. So, but what I would probably say is, if you look at how many hours in the contract that you're allocated when you're getting paid, I would first push back and say, okay, do you have any, what's available? Are you operating at 100% capacity based on what we stipulated in the contract? If that's a yes, then we could talk about, additional contracting and additional funds. If we look at the hours that were allocated versus what's being leveraged today, if it's 70%, that means there's 30% that we can fill maybe with some of these other responsibilities. And I would probably look at whether if you're running this thing or if it's Gary or who else, but you guys are not a staffing agency.
Right.
Right. So, but you do have institutional knowledge to help us go out there, but it's a little more sophisticated, when you're going out, there's a lot more to it than just networking, to that piece. So what I would say is there capacity under the existing contract for you to help us with some of the things that you're going to do, which is you're going to outreach to your network. If we're posting, really what you're doing is you're looking through resumes. How much time is that going to take? So before we go and pay you additional funds for service that I think maybe you're 50% experienced in, you've got the institutional knowledge, but you're not an agency, and you don't have agency type resources. I don't want to pay you in addition if there's some things that we can have you do under existing contract to help us meet our obligations and needs.
Sure.
And that's just my input.
And
we did anticipate some effort, but it's when I think of doing a search for an executive administrator, it's a lot of time talking to different
this is my business. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah,
this is what I do for a living every day.
It's just a lot of time doing that, reaching out and talking to people. One time I got a police chief by going to a community where they had already hired someone, and I kept talking to them. They kept saying, well, we really like this guy, but he didn't have quite enough experience or this or that. And he's the best police chief I ever had, because that's the guy we hired.
okay, so let me summarize this, should be fast. So you believe that the job description for the district manager, it just has too much details to put out there and be the first page per se of looking for the district manager.
Yes.
Is it your plan to use that this job description that you emailed the board? Because if we're replacing that 5-page description to that, I have major problems, because I think that it's not well written. I think it's lacking. I think it needs a lot of work.
Yes.
So if what you're gonna offer us is either the 5-page or that ad, I don't want that ad. I think we could do better.
Mhm.
We could do a blend between the two things. And then I think Ed can give a lot of assistance on this. I mean, all of us, but I just feel like there was unnecessary information there and then lack of information.
It's probably the same comments that I sent back. on
Okay.
it. So it's, especially if you're advertising in Florida. Now, those people know that you've got beautiful beaches and golf courses and et
Kind of,
cetera.
yeah.
That is more so for, say, Michigan, where, you know, you're trying to attract them to come down here. And why?
Well, honestly, I want someone to read the job description and know what the job is.
And that's what
Mhm.
I thought.
I
If
want
anything,
someone, if they're a city manager somewhere and they want to relocate down, they can really say, oh, this is
yeah.
the
Sure.
district manager. I know what that means.
Mhm.
And then
If you're not specific like that, you're going to get 100
Well,
resumes
Well,
of
here's
things that
my,
are not
here's
applicable.
my problem with that. We've been doing that. We got 20 some that are exactly, have nothing to do with our job whatsoever.
but then we,
So I don't think that means
Well, you're going to
everything.
get
I
that
think it's,
regardless. You're gonna get
I
that
think you need to
regardless.
hit the market. But that's my whole deal is I don't want to spend $30,000 on a headhunter when I've got him to do the effectively
And
the
I'd be
same
willing to
thing.
do that as long as there's some
Yeah.
guarantees or some type of.
Well, there's no
risk.
guarantee with a headhunter.
Yes, there is.
What's the guarantee? Get your money back?
No, with the, if I
If you don't want-
pull in an agency and I say, I'm going to pay you 20% of the first year salary, if they don't place that candidate, they don't get paid. If I go,
Exactly right.
if I go retain, then I'm going to pay someone the first third, but they don't get the second or the third until we either hit a short list or that position is filled.
Mhm.
I would never pay someone a full fee on a placement without any guarantees. It's just, you don't do that. You won't. see
Yeah,
it.
that's not a
Yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can get to a point if and my
And I got
idea
no problem
was
with
to
saying,
bring
look, we'll
12 or
give
6
you X amount to
candidates.
cover, just
the extra time.
an initial,
Yeah.
and we'll
Mhm.
pay you an additional or amount or percentage when we hire that person, which is more in line with what an
Sure.
agency agreement would be, whether it's with a headhunter or something
Yeah.
along those lines.
And
And then the
the
Part of that is investment on
difference-
your side.
Sure. And the difference of advertising for a city manager and having a long, detailed job description that you're paying to advertise.
But we can,
But they
the job
know-
description's irrelevant. We
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
work through that.
But
If you're
they
talking about just putting
know-
something on a job board or posting something on FASD, or we can take that 5-page and what you have, but we can come up with something
Sure.
that is attractive.
You
And you may have to
want
tailor it.
attract the people with that requisite skill.
Correct.
Yeah.
And you can
Correct.
do that pretty simple.
And it is going to be different.
Sure.
That description will be different for
Mhm.
those that you're posting regionally in Florida and those that you're posting in Ohio,
Exactly.
Michigan, Indiana, those, because you'll have to track people a little
Because
different.
non-Floridians are
Yeah,
not.
but I'm not
gonna
worried about the
be
job.
Used to a CDD
I'm not
type
worried
of
about
Well, the-
Yeah.
organization.
The other one that I like is to get their input on this public works position.
Mhm.
Because right now, I just do not see that we need so much a public works person. What do we have? We have one thing, and one thing predominantly, that's stormwater management. We need a stormwater management person. Now, if that person could be concurrently a public works manager that would have a flavor to be able to handle the pools and the
Yeah.
little bit of roads we've got and that type of stuff, that's secondary. Our big one is we need a public works manager to make sure that we get the stormwater management system taken care of. So before I go out and I would advertise it as public works, I'd much rather make sure that if it's going to say public works, it's got with a strong flavor for stormwater management. Because we're weak.
I got no problem with that.
You also have a succession problem. You need to get ready for when people start to retire. You got some coming up that you should have somebody working with them to start learning what they do and get over the hump.
Yeah.
But down the road, a
And
year or
that
two
would
down.
create a major hole because that's one place where we have none.
Yeah.
Well,
We
we
have
have two things.
We're just starting.
We have
Right.
planned and unplanned attrition. And we don't have a plan for either one. We've started to, like Kenny's starting to do it
Well,
in
Kenny's
his
starting.
area.
Yeah,
but
utility side, we're
better
A lot
than we.
better
than
we
have.
in any place
Great,
else.
much better. That's
So,
our strong
anyway,
suit.
so I
Yeah.
think what I would be asking for is, one, look at our existing arrangement.
Mhm.
Is there capacity to take on some of this? And then, because you can absorb existing time, networking, doing whatever. And then if we can come to an agreement with that, what we're paying you already is going to give you, is going to cover your labor costs for now. When we hire this person, if it comes through your efforts, we will pay you an agreed upon.
Cal,
rate,
can you come
just like
back
we would.
with an amendment based on what we just said?
Sure. Yeah, I think so.
I
And
want to
I have
include,
no problem
I want
with
to
that.
include that other side of where you analyze our staff to just know the fact that you've been here and know what we've got in the past and know how it's supposed to work. I'd like to hear.
I agree, Ed. Absolutely. I was going to say that.
I'd like to
You've got a
hear.
strong institutional knowledge.
Yeah.
And I have all the respect in the world for what Doug has said, that we have an organization that's far more effective than it ever was. That doesn't mean it couldn't
Get better.
benefit from
Sure.
from your expertise in that area. So I, for one, also would like to hear.
But I would like
those.
that to happen in kind of two ways. One, you look at it holistically. You look at it from an operating perspective, by department. You start there, do we appear to be running efficiently? Does this department appear to be running efficiently? Do they have succession? Is there redundancies? Do they have operating procedures, from that perspective? And then you can start to drill down, into specific roles.
But this will be on a
roles and
later
responsibilities.
portion.
Does it align with?
This is kind of more like an exit type of synopsis. We're all done now. We've hired these people. And oh, by the way, here's some other things we saw that might benefit you.
And I agree with the end of it, like the priority is,
Not be now
that's
doing
not the priority now.
Right.
And then I do have, just so I don't forget, and I think I emailed you this in regards to the reporting, because I think it's on the screen now. And while Gary is our district manager, we, as looking at the approved organization chart, everyone reports to Laura. Laura reports to Gary.
This is from the October 7th board meeting.
Correct.
So
That's fine.
so if there's any changes that need to be made, we need to be clear to you and fair to you and staff and Gary and Laura. So as of right now, the utilities director, well, I would say this, Kenny, everybody reports to Laura. Laura reports to Gary. Gary reports, to us. So I think it's really important to get the relationship between Laura and Gary really strong, because they need to be partnering a lot.
And honestly, what I expect from Gary is really consult. I
Mhm.
expect him to consult in this, because when it comes, if there's something that's happening, Gary's just not going to have historical knowledge to be able to, he's going to have to consult with Laura, and it should be a partnership. It should be a consultative piece. If it has anything to do with staff, day to day, I would expect that, kind of drill up through Laura, and then Laura would go and say, hey, Gary, this came through,
Yeah.
just want, from.
We're assuming that there might be a conflict here, and I don't necessarily see one. It shouldn't be, but he should be equally informed of everything that's going on. And I'm hoping that's.
Yeah,
what's
he
happening.
has to be involved.
Has to be, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
It's
think
really
both.
checks and balances, to
Yeah.
be
Yeah.
quite honest.
We
Checks
should
and
talk every day.
Every day,
Okay.
multiple times.
And the longer you're here every week, you get more and more historical knowledge, and you know what's going on.
I agree.
We're okay.
Okay.
Good.
You good?
I'm good. As
And you
far
can call
as,
me if we need to talk
yeah.
through it more, you can,
I think when you come back with the proposal, there's two components though. The one is the component of the hiring, looking for the manager, and the other component is this review of the detailed review of the staff and all the positions.
well,
And
that, we feel that's in our existing contract.
okay,
yeah,
I
well,
mean,
that's
unless
what
you say you
that's
don't
the-
want it.
I was
Okay.
operating under that assumption.
Yeah, and Gary's been working on it. Scott, myself, and Gary have met numerous times on it, and we're probably. gonna
Basically,
be
we're
ready.
looking to give you incentive kickers for helping
Okay.
us fill these positions.
I'm sure
And,
just,
and you, if you want to come back and say, hey, this is what I think is reasonable for the amount of effort
Mhm.
that we're gonna have to put in, that might be over and above what's in the existing contract, and that's fine. And we can negotiate on price.
I'm just
All right,
worried that we
so
get
let's
too
move-
far out on a
let's
limb
move
on
on.
that public works director at this point.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob, for keeping us on track. All right, let's move into action items. So that the operations management system proposal. Oh, this is what you were talking about earlier. Yeah. Okay.
Leslie Victoric, Utility Billing Manager. So we had some operation issues with keeping track of inventory, work orders, asset management,
and not having one centralized location or tool. So Austin and I have been looking at different products over the last 6-8 months. My understanding from the direction of Kenny, utility manager, and the board, that they wanted a centralized location that everyone could access. Can go on to the next one. So we wanted internal database for everyone, something that was centralized, not fragmented as all over the place with different pieces of paper and different software. Something that was more efficient and the workflows was tracked. So we looked at different software programs as well as what other utilities are using. And that's basically, we have one more that we did reviewed with Laura, Edmonds Group. We did not include them here, but it was one, we did review about 6 different software companies. Go on. And when it came down to it, we selected 3, Cartograph, Elements, and Tyler were our top 3. CityWorks, which is way too expensive, and it was really catered through really large.
Okay, I was going to ask you what the difference was, because you had Charlotte County, Collier County.
Right.
Okay.
So that was why we selected based on our size and costs and how easy the interface
Were there any
was.
functionality differences that you would lose from like a CityWorks, something that's geared towards more larger organizations?
No, I reviewed it with Austin, and we both felt like it was just not tailored for someone of our size.
Did you use any of these?
No. We have, well, no, functions of this are within what we do with Passerella GIS. The Passerella GIS doesn't have the capability to do all this.
Yeah, this is a much larger platform.
This is a much larger, broader.
This is an operating system.
Right. Next slide. So we selected Cartograph just because based on the screen, you can see it adapts to your mobile device, laptop, or computer. Can go on to the next one. It has features that baseboards that are dashboards, sorry, that are tailored based on who is viewing them. So if you're a board member and you only want to see selective things, that's what you can see. If you're a member of management and you want to track cost, and if you're a field staff, it would be the same thing as well.
Does this integrate with the GIS system?
Yes.
Okay.
Can go on to the next slide. That's just a feature that's mapped, and that's how the system is able to show this information because it works with the GIS enterprise license. So that is a parks and recs screen. You can see how many benches, how many trees, the ponds, everything that's it's on there as well. Next slide. If you want to drill down on the utility side, you can see exactly your water mains, your sewer laterals, everything, dimensions, how far deep. It basically talks with the GIS system.
And so if we have some of this existing, how does it integrate? Do you plug it in? Do they have to remap the stuff using their?
No, right now, currently, Austin has been working with the free version of the GIS where everything is preloaded. So he has everything already for utilities and stormwater. So
this is internal use only, right?
Correct.
Right. So we're
still doing the residents, and completely separate, although there will be some duplication there downstairs.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, like anything that we have existing, we can transition that into the system. Okay.
Yeah, this is focused, everything Austin's done rolls right into it.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
perfect.
Right.
$4
Yes.
GIS, right?
Awesome. Oh, that's right, because Austin was part of this.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
yeah, sorry, I missed that.
The software is really sweet.
next slide. That's a screenshot of work orders. So you can select and see what you want to see. How many work orders are sewer backup related, by color code, water, what's closed, what's open. So you can see the concentration of work orders and what type throughout the community.
Can you integrate vendors with this? So if we put in a ticket, can you integrate this with our vendors to track tickets that we put out for them?
I wouldn't
What kind
think
of
so
tickets?
Without them having cartograph access.
Well,
Is this proprietary?
but there could be two ways to do it. One, they have a
No, I
third party, they have
see
third party
what you mean.
access. Or two, if you put in a ticket for Mainscape of an issue,
Oh.
some way to alert Mainscape that there is an issue, we track it in our system.
Yes, we could create a user profile for Mainscape. So they would have access to,
Limited access.
right,
control,
limited access,
information-based, yeah.
right.
See, that's what I was trying to think, you know, with
Yeah,
all
I thought
all
they
of our
had to buy the
vendors.
Software to do it.
Everybody uses one part of whatever.
I mean, we
benefits
may,
with them.
we may
Right.
have to give them a license or access
Right,
to
it's
it.
$500 for every additional
And we
license.
just take that into the contracts, you know, moving forward. You know, if you
I
want,
think
if
it's a
you want
great
to
idea,
bid,
all in one, yeah.
yeah, then
This system also has the capability of locates 811, so it'll talk automatically, would load the locates in the system, notify the work field. And then as they close the work orders, it'll automatically close out the 811 locate as well. So it talks to,
That'll happen in real time.
yeah, in real
That'll
time.
happen in real time.
Mhm.
so we can monitor what's happening in the field with our staff.
Right,
How many work orders are they closing? Where are they at? Any,
the next slide.
that's awesome.
Something to do in your spare time.
This is exactly what you said. This tracks and monitors per staff, what they're doing, what their activity, their history, what cost, related to what cost during a damaged damaged pipe or anything that could be tracked is tracked per person or per service area.
And you can take pictures.
You can upload pictures.
This is pretty cool.
Yeah, just quickly, let's say for this, I mean, the existence of district utility lines and features, that won't be any part of this. They won't be able to access this.
I'm sorry.
District utility lines, water lines, force mains, lift stations, they won't be able to access that.
Everything will be restricted, so only specific
Right,
people
user
will have,
by permission.
yeah,
Yeah, because
This isn't for the public. This is totally internal.
even for the vendors, I'm concerned because
right.
there's an exemption in the public records law after the whole 9/11 issue about impacts to utility
Critical
That's a good point.
infrastructure.
infrastructure, yes. So that's just a thought.
Anything that's out of the norm, that's outside of staff, I would consult with Tony or Laura to make sure that it's in line with what we're allowed to do.
And is it our expectation that we would leverage this through just mobile devices first, or will we also need to look at budgeting for tablets or you know, iPads or something for staff?
I have in the proposal budgeted for mobile tablet devices.
Okay.
Right now I have 8.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I have several issues with this. One is, believe it or not, we are a small organization. And this is going to put an awful lot of overhead on it if it's done the way it's being described here. To the point where you're going to have someone at least overseeing it. Secondly, we worked on some of this business a few years ago to the point where we discovered that we couldn't put all of these maps out for the general consumption. The Department of Homeland Security does not want us to divulge all of that information to the general public. And thirdly, I think that something as significant of this should at the very least be held off until our new permanent district manager is on board.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. I'll continue.
Mhm.
Okay. In regards to the implementation process, the GIS portion would have to go through first. That's about 30 to 60 days, maybe 90, just depends. And then after that, we can implement the cartograph system if that's the direction that we are going to take. And that process for implementation will take about 6 to 8 months. So having the system live will be
this time next year.
What's the cost out of this deal here? What's the cost for one and the cost for two? What's the ratio?
90, 10% is related to the GIS.
So 10% for phase one here and
Right.
90% for phase two.
But it's do you purchase it all at once?
No,
Or-
I would proceed with purchasing, well, yes, because there is
You have to have
a,
the total operating
right.
system, but
we would first create the PO for the GIS, have that go for about 30 days, and then the next 30 days, we would move forward with the asset management system.
And then is this just for this side of the tracks on Gateway, or is it inclusive of Pelican Preserve?
It could include, it's all our ponds, our
so
stormwater.
this is an
This is
application
everything.
to manage Gateway.
Yes.
Pelican is a part of
Yeah,
that.
right. But we would still see and
So it would include, what I'm trying to figure out is the GIS portion of it that's in Pelican, would that have to be redone?
no,
The Pelican
that's
GIS system is a very
separate.
focused thing. This is for work orders and things that we're doing here.
So
this
you
would
you
not
don't give
apply
them anything on water or sewer over at yours?
Only to the point that it's managed by the district, which would be Prado, Pistoia.
But I mean, they don't see, they can't get access to water lines, fire hydrants and that type of stuff.
Who can?
The
Residents.
No, well, I don't know.
They can right now based on the Pelican system. In other words, in
I think you
Pelican,
could do that.
they have access right now.
They shouldn't have that.
Well, they do not utilities, but stormwater lines, irrigation lines.
No, potable water is what I'm worried about.
No, they do
That's
not
the
have
big one.
access to that.
Potable and wastewater. primarily.
That's administration only
Yeah.
within the Pelican.
Arguably, we could do all the drainage structures typically, most people show
Yeah,
that.
drainage is not.
But yeah, the
don't worry about it.
potable,
Correct.
but irrigation water though also. you need to-
Well, because we got the,
Well, but that's a side conversation what Pelican
Yep.
uses today.
Well, the reason I
But
brought
there's
it up
not,
is
there's not a redundancy.
that's what I was.
It's
getting
not a
at.
redundancy.
No, okay.
It's, yeah. Two separate uses.
The other aspect of is how we're going to host the data, whether it's going to be on site here with servers or through the cloud. Obviously, on site is very expensive. We have the cost of the actual server, IT maintenance, maintenance annually for security updates. So staff direction would be to go on the iCloud base.
And to Bill's point, which it's completely valid, once you start getting into a lot of these operating systems and tech platforms, you are going to have issues, right?
Mhm.
So how do we manage technical support, install applications?
Who's going to run it?
If it's cloud-based, everything is handled by the provider. Locally here, we would need an administrator, which right now it's me, because I handle the work orders now.
And we're talking about this system is really software as a service. So it should be no different than you installing an app on your phone.
Right,
It
correct.
should be able to run itself.
Run
You know,
itself.
and
They will,
The administrator here is for user setup,
correct,
permissions,
access.
that kind of stuff.
Right, we're not having, like I am now with the meter system, I'm physically having to run updates. I'm physically able to, having
So we
to
could
spend time on
technically
that.
Streamline and.
Save us man hours in what we're using today. So it could help us it could provide more productivity. Is that
Correct.
correct?
Yeah.
whoa, you really believe that, Leslie?
It's
The
gonna,
amount of input and
yeah,
day that this is gonna take?
But the input is managed on the individual level,
right.
not, so
Right
each
now, for
individual is
example, if
responsible
we
for
were
the
to
input.
do fire hydrant inspections, everything's done on paper. So they take a sheet of paper, they go out to a community, there's 100 fire hydrants. They have to sit there and write and mark up damages, what's wrong with it, and then have to come back, and then someone has to physically type on a computer to log that information. Then we have to log if it's being, if there is damage, who's gonna repair it, and then we have to create a work order. So there's a lot of steps in
So you
tracking.
could do that in the field.
Well,
Yeah,
right.
I completely agree with
I
that
mean,
portion.
it's not gonna eliminate, it's going to, of course, add some workflows because users, field workers on site are gonna have to be responsible
Until
for.
they learn how to do it.
Right,
they'll be
so
around.
they learn how to,
I'd like to pick on Cal here. Cal, to what extent are you familiar with this? And have you seen other CDDs that are doing this type of an operation management system?
No, none of mine do, but it looks like a great system. It really gives you a lot of information.
Oh, I can see
Can't
that.
hear.
Yeah, he's saying it gives you a lot of, I asked Cal,
Mike, Cal.
he said it gives you a lot of operation and flexibility is I think what basically it offers.
Yes. Yeah, it's, no, but none of my districts have that, but none of my districts are, like Gateway. You guys are huge.
Basically a utility system.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I do have another district. They've got their own water, wastewater plant, and utility billing, et cetera, but they'd love to have this.
Well, the question I'm going to get hit with out on the street is that will this necessitate us hiring another employee solely for the purpose of managing this system? That's going to be the question on the street.
That has to be answered by Leslie.
Managing the system, I assumed that would fall under my responsibility and or
Austin, that's what I figured. Yeah.
I said the
Thank you.
same thing. And what are the annual costs, the fixed costs with this, disregarding manpower, but just
Okay.
the agreement to use these?
Can you go on to the next slide?
Yeah, that's what I was.
So that's just a comparison of the rejected proposals. Each company would have their cloud-based and in-house. Most of these were over our budget. We did not really, the only system that we'd considered was the Elements, but we passed on that because of the cost. The next slide. And that's just a comparison of how the costs compare across each system. First year, cost only. And that is a comparison of the annual, and as the on-premise cost across the board is always higher. I think there's a remote.
If you blended those two, would Elements be a more long-term cost-effective deal?
We did look at that, but the Elements had some restrictions regarding access if the system was offline, and the user interface was not as friendly. So it took a little bit more time. It was just effective for us.
Otherwise, those were about the only two on both operation cost versus a capital cost.
Right.
Yeah.
So
They
in
were in
looking
line.
at this slide, we're looking at ballpark 100,000, 107,000 without the internal cost of.
No,
that's in-house.
63,000, because it would be a cloud-based solution. We wouldn't have.
Oh, I'm looking at the in-house.
Yeah, we would, in-house is not on the table. It's cloud-based on. So 63,000 for the first year and then 30,000 annually
after the first
after the
year.
first year.
Plus whatever labor we have to put in.
Labor hours,
This is
yeah.
licensing types agreements.
Right.
So what?
There's one other element in this. It's the procurified side, because there's consideration of the reporting issues. That's not included in this proposal. That would add an additional $5,000. I'm not sure, Laura, if you want to talk about that now, but there's some reporting issues with Procurify, the PO system. So I didn't want to include that in this if it wasn't
Yeah,
going to be a long-term.
We're
don't
actually
think I
gonna be
understand
moving away from the Procurify system that went in. They decided that they were gonna make budgets optional, and that is not good. So I have a meeting with Stephen Bloom tomorrow to look at what they're using, and it will actually be, we pay about a little over $7,000 a year to have the Procurify, the RPO system. And I'm looking at a Microsoft solution. I'm gonna walk through it with Stephen. It's the same one that they use, and hopefully we'll be able to interface with them as well, which means we'll have a lot more visibility into things, and it's
Okay.
considerably less expensive.
So what you're saying is you
I
didn't look at integration with Purify
Because
today
we are getting
because
rid
you're
of
looking
it,
to
yeah.
change that system out in the
I
future.
did get a quote. It was an additional $4,000 to get a integration
WPI,
built in.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Now, so what you'll look at is, are there other systems that they might already have some type of plug-in or,
Right.
okay.
We budgeted 100,000 for capital on this. Did we budget anything for that operating side, that 30,000?
No, everything's
That'll be
included.
next
So
year.
the
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
everything's
100,000,
included on the
right,
first
yeah.
year. And then the 4,000 would be just on the first year, or would be if we needed to blend it, or would it be 4,000 every year?
That's in the in-house, so that's if,
Okay, so it wouldn't.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But if we do integrate with our procurement system, it either have to be one they have an existing relationship with, or there's probably some type of integration that will
Right.
They would have to write.
They will
But we don't know what
integrate
that
it.
Write an
is.
Right.
API, yeah. I'm assuming if it's Microsoft, it would be a little easier because that's a more common thing.
So the annual cost for the asset management side is the 21,400. The GIS annual license fee is 5,000. And then that is optional. So if we decided to purchase mobile tablets and have them with cellular service, that's the additional 3,600 a year. And that's for 8 additional devices. Now, staff could use their mobile phones. We currently already have tablets. So that's just an option that I put out there as a.
Yeah, okay.
Your next slide's just your questions.
Oh, yeah.
Any questions for Leslie around the system?
No, thank you. It's a pretty complete system. It's impressive.
And I could look into also having set up additional profiles that are view only. So if we wanted to give access to certain HOA members or certain residents to see ponds, but not restrict access and have it view only, that's also an option that we could have.
Did you talk about, I was multitasking, did you talk about the resident thing where like eventually they have like there's a resident interface? I don't know if we've included that. There's an option for a resident interface where like if residents are in their neighborhoods and they see an issue with something, they can actually
Put a pin in
put
it.
a
request.
pin and let us know that
That'd
something
be
is
awesome.
wrong. So that's one of the pieces that's.
It's a double-edged
available with
sword
the
there,
system.
but.
Yeah, I know. I'm not saying we're gonna do it, but it is an option.
Did I hear you, Laura, this is going to be resident access to?
No, I said there's an option to have a resident interface.
Okay.
Where you can
That's
just put
not
in a
a plan.
ticket. Like you just, if you see something, you can just put in a ticket.
Like when people email customer care now telling us that signs are down or lights are out or things like that, they would
And they
be able
could
to
do it
do
on, based on this?
Yeah.
That's my understanding, yeah.
That means they have resident access.
But they won't now. That's not part of our initial thing. That's a capability of
That's
the
a phase
system.
2
Yes.
potential.
Okay,
But
and would our resident GIS, forget this, the Pelican system, would it meld into this?
I would assume we could get the GIS data from Passarella.
It could.
But if
We would
Pascal
have
were
it.
That would be
managing it,
additional cost.
but if they were managing it, would it still be,
That
well,
would-
I don't want to build 2 systems,
Right.
competing systems.
I would have to get with the developer to see how that works, because I think it's fed off of
Okay,
the
'cause-
one
All right, let me
GIS.
rephrase this another way. The board is totally on board with what we want to do here to help ourselves.
Mhm.
Okay. Separate, standalone, is the resident portion, comparable with Pelican. Is there a conflict here? Is there duplication, or do we still travel both paths? I guess is my question.
My opinion would be that there would be duplication. If we move forward, have Passarella do their thing with the resident piece, and there is a resident function available in this software, that we would have 2 separate systems.
Okay, well,
my-
I would suggest you already have 2 systems, because half our residents in Pelican are already on one.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I guess I'm going to question, why are we reinventing the wheel? Because we've already said as a board, we want to do that for our residents.
Yeah, I think where
But that's a-
the value would be, I think we all have agreed that we want a comprehensive GIS system, both for internal use, for operational usage, and then for visibility to our residents. I think we all agree, that's what we want.
Correct.
Where the conversation would lie is if we have basically this operating system, this platform that allows us to use GIS as well as, day-to-day management, whatever, and there is a resident potential interface, what that would allow residents to do is have more interaction with putting in tickets. And,
Right.
that's something we can't do with Passarella today, from what I understand. So we'd have to make a decision.
Right.
We stay down the Passarella path, which I would almost argue that you could take whatever Passarella is doing, put it into the system.
That's what I was thinking.
And you would have maybe, then we'd have to determine whether
From a
whether
pond,
a system of
from a
record.
ponds only, I would
Ponds
tend to agree with that. But where Pelican is now heading is landscaping is going to be part of this, of the Passarella system, as well as safety, security, traffic light, stop signs. I mean, that system is still growing. It's not static and dead.
Yeah.
It is still moving forward. So I
Yeah.
just didn't
Well, I
want to
think
have a fight.
the resident portal is in phase 2. So I think we're gonna have to compare and contrast to see which platform is the system of record, and do we move forward with resident being Passarella, or we keep that for
But
Pelican?
We've got money budgeted this fiscal year
Yeah.
to start the Passarella for the residents here.
Yeah.
And I assume
Well, it
that's
still has to be
money.
done. So these people are not building the GIS for
No.
us. So that has to be done, period. So if we take that money and have Passarella build that GIS, it will be leveraged, whether it's standalone or if we use that as a source of,
Well, that's my question. I didn't know that we could do that.
Yeah.
Who's doing the GIS here?
Austin has the GIS built and he's working with Esri GIS.
So he's not working with Passarella.
No,
Although he's been over there and looked and saw what they had. He's not, at that time, we weren't focused on it at all. But if we can take, let me back up, if we go and start the Passarella portion and complete what Pelican's got, if all of that can be rolled into this, then that's, that's fine. But I don't want to see what we've already done thrown away to build over here, another one. If that makes sense. You follow where I'm going? Because again, we're always two interfaces. One was internal, and I thought this was internal.
this is a.
this is internal.
This is
Well,
what
but
we're
you
getting
never
for
told me
is
that before,
internal.
Laura.
Yeah.
You have never said we were going to have a customer or resident base.
I did in my email that there was the resident facing option.
Okay, in the conversation.
Yeah.
It's always been, one was internal here for staff, which I completely support and understand. And that's what Austin's done, but it doesn't.
And we
come
may
here.
not, I think that, let's not get too caught up in the resident piece, because to me, that's a nice to have. And.
Well, the reason I'm bringing it up, Doug, is we've got money allocated.
No, I understand that.
If we're going to spend it,
Yeah.
I don't want to spend it.
Well, but
wasteful.
what Passarella's building is literally a GIS with the resident view. It's not
Correct.
an issue tracking system. It is literally a stagnant or a static,
Standalone.
well, it's a static standalone view, a GIS view for residents.
Correct.
Right. Okay. And that's, that's all it's for. So anyway, so we'll have to, just keep looking on whether that's even something we want on the resident side. But
Right.
again, that's a phase 2, nice to have. Really what we're trying to solve is internal operational efficiencies through this type of platform application.
So from here, I just wanted to get the board's direction if they wanted me to proceed with the cloud-based version of our recommendation on Cartograph and getting started on the GIS license.
I mean, I think
Or
the
just
cloud-based is a
hold off,
no-brainer.
or-
I mean, you have
Between
to,
the cost of the two, the cloud-based, but
that's a no-brainer.
more fundamentally for me right now, and I don't know if Bill brought it up or echoed it, to great piece of information, good document, something we definitely ought to be looking at. But I feel more comfortable after we make our hire. If it's another 3 or 4 months that we get a district manager, he may come with a whole different perspective. So I would just,
So-
that's my nickel. I
Okay.
would defer a little bit.
So Laura, so we have 100,000 and then for the first year will be the 63,000, which include the 30,000 on maintenance. We have the money for it. And so that's what you asked for making a motion on this.
Well, a decision on the board's direction if they want me to proceed with this system.
It would be the staff's recommendation, right? It's approved
Yeah.
staff's recommendation.
I mean, the only thing I would say to both Bill and Bob on this is we've been talking, staff has been asking for something like this for as long
Years.
as I've been on the board.
Years. Yeah.
And if we want to get to operational efficiency,
Yeah,
this
I think
is the way we get there.
Sure.
The district manager is not,
it
I
is.
mean, there's probably 100 different systems out there.
Right.
That was exactly my point.
Yeah.
He may have something that he thought.
Yeah, but the more we delay, the longer the implementation is going to be. It's going to take us probably 6 to 8 months. So, I mean,
Okay, so I'm ready to make a motion
Okay,
then.
go
I'll make a motion to go ahead with staff's recommendation for the iCloud based one,
Right.
62,000.
I think it's Cartograph.
Cartograph,
Cartograph, and it's Cartograph.
Mhm.
For the first year?
First year cost,
Okay.
yeah,
And then
Implementation.
30,000.
annually after
Annually
the
after.
first year.
I'll second that motion.
second, and I have one more additional question. Is this a licensed, so is this unlimited user profiles or licenses?
Right,
or-
that cost is licensed for 18 users. And then, well, up to 20 users, and then after the 20, it's 500 per additional user.
And
It's annually?
That is the license,
that's where your 30,000 is going to be
correct,
your user
correct.
cost and probably your
right,
application cost.
annual
And
maintenance.
out of that 20, is there a certain limitation on administrative
No, there's
users?
no
Okay,
limitation.
so you can have all admin users
Right.
if you want.
Mhm.
Okay.
And then on the 30,000, most likely, there, I don't necessarily think there's a need for us to get tablets for the $3,600 because
Right.
we already have it. So if we need extra licenses, it's gonna offset by the $3,600 that's there.
Now, the cost that we're having to implement this in the first year,
Mhm.
all the data input is already included in that, everything? There's no extra cost anywhere, or is this just for programs?
That's implementation cost for first year.
All
Other
data
other
input?
than Austin and my labor hours for,
And they have they have a lot of training that they include in there, a lot of training.
Right.
So we'll have a lot of support.
Okay, I'm just trying to make sure I understand the cost.
That's all
The
in.
63 doesn't include what our staff will be putting in terms of time and
right.
effort.
Yeah, anytime you have a software conversion, that's always gonna be the case. Your staff is going to have to put in hours for
The
it.
cartograph cost is $63,000,
Right, just that
which is
one.
well under our budget.
Little, okay, part of it. And then total GIS Ursa cost is the 5,000, we think. But
Correct.
then all the input and all that other stuff. Okay. All right, I understand.
All right, I have a motion, a second. I will call the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
3-2. Thank you. Thank you, Leslie, for the. Okay, moving on.
Tim's pool rental thing, he would like to move that to a meeting when he can be here to
Okay,
talk
so
about
we'll
that.
table that.
What are you tabled?
4B is being tabled for the next meeting.
And when that comes back, if there are any other parks or recreation fees, the board would consider, because if the board decides to go ahead and set this for public hearing, might as well just do one public hearing for all rates.
Which would cover something underneath the C3. So I think
I think this is a little different.
Yeah, I think it's different. Are we talking about?
I think, so Tony, if I'm hearing you correctly, if we're under consideration for other amenities that would be
Rates,
fee-based,
fees, and
like
charges, might as well
could
do
be
it one
dog
time.
park increase
Yes.
or pool or, okay,
or
Yeah.
whether it's event or pool usage.
Correct, that way you save advertising costs.
Okay.
Otherwise, you have to keep advertising for each one.
Okay.
Separately.
All right, 4C.
just a minute. The main change with these contracts is that the dates will now run because of the consideration for possibly having someone do the management of the soccer program for us. Sorry. We changed the dates. Tony and Georgia have been going back and forth with these, so these are all Tony blessed. We recommend changing the end date of the contract to May 31st, which also coincides with the ends of the actual soccer seasons. And the leagues were actually very happy about that, because that way the new contracts would start at the beginning of their new season.
So they would, now moving forward,
It
we
would
would
be
have to have
June to
agreement
May.
in place prior to each season start.
So yeah, the contracts would run June to May instead of January to December like they do now.
Is
So that would
this-
be seasons.
This, we haven't selected a firm. We've still got that.
Correct.
proposal. So
That
This
was.
is a generic.
This is keeping everything status quo through the end of May, which will give us time to do that for the next season.
Okay.
Because we don't have any time to go out for bid before we'd have to nullify.
Because our contracts are all expire at the end of
Basically we're buying
December.
6 months.
January 1st.
So
then.
yeah, we're
Okay,
buying
well, the
ourselves
one-
6
the One
months.
thing I would want added to this is to go back to what we had 6, 7, 8 years ago. And I would like to see something in here to where we get a financial statement at the end of the year, specifically that paragraph F that was omitted years ago. We're running a business here, $300,000 that we have no idea what we're giving away. And I think there needs to be some accountability.
Yeah.
So I would propose that we add back in, as it was originally written, because I thought it was pretty good, the GSA shall, well, in this case, the applicant or the league name shall within 90 days after the close of the fiscal year file with the GSCDD solely as a repository of such information and otherwise is provided by law. A copy of GSA or league financial statement for such year prepared by a certified public accountant or similar in good standing. Such financial statement shall include a balance sheet and related statements of activities, cash flow for the year then ended.
Would
I have
that
a
have,
question.
I'd
yeah,
like
would
to
that
see-
have any impact on the fees they're charging us? I'm not
No,
quite sure why
And
they
that's
need
why,
that.
that's what I think, I want to get, I think.
Because we have no idea what we're giving away.
But then are we gonna
That's not how
charge
it
more
works.
because
To the
they have
million.
more? I think we should assess what are the true costs it is
Yeah.
for us
And
and
they
pass,
choose to pay it
and
or not.
pass that exact cost to them with, at a no discount rate. So we need to assess how much does it cost us to maintain the fields and everything and say, that's the cost. You like it? Great, pay for it. You don't like it? Great,
Well,
don't do it.
Flavia, I hear you, but depending on how many leagues you use, like, you know, if this is just flag football and whatever the various soccer leagues are, and that other gentleman that came renting it, I don't know how you know.
Well, there are
Yeah,
different, they pay differently if you look at the schedule. So this is for leagues. So if
Oh,
you look,
this is just for
yeah,
leagues?
so this will be for leagues.
I
So
thought
look,
this was
page
a generic
78,
contract.
Yeah, we
No,
have a
that's-
contract
it's for
each
leagues.
league.
each
See,
league.
my deal is that I don't care who we got. If you're using our facilities, you're going to tell us what you're making out of this. We're spending a lot of money here, 300,000 to be exact, not counting capital that has to be spent out there. And we get nothing back telling us what we're doing. No business does that.
Yeah, Well,
Nobody,
I don't think,
nobody does that.
so my argument with that is, I don't believe that they ask you how much equity, what your total income is when you apply for a membership of the golf club. Do they?
It's totally separate.
No.
They're not paying for it and having somebody else pay for it.
Yeah, but
We're having using
you're saying-
people's money to generate this, to put cash in somebody's
It's-
pocket
it's
that
apples to
operates it. And all I'm saying is how much cash are you making?
so what
That's all
what
I'm
you're saying is
asking.
we want to know how much people are making so we can charge
Charge
them
more. Yeah, and that's
more
what I don't
if they're
agree.
making more.
I
That's
definitely
ridiculous.
think there's an
Well,
opportunity.
the
of the
residents are going to
cost
say
here.
something about that, Doug. Why am I paying out the $300,000 if somebody's putting it in his pocket?
Well, if.
But
I mean,
then,
that's
But
ridiculous.
if someone has a profitable business, that doesn't make
I
them-
believe that
It's
we,
profitable on our nickel.
then let's charge them more.
and that's
Oh,
what I'm saying.
I'll go either-
I'll go either way, and I go with charge more. So
I'll-
I think the opportunity is
go
right
either
here
way.
on the cost, the true cost, and I think Ed had made this math before. So the true cost of operating, I think is way too low. And I have to agree with that, compared to the actual cost that we have. And I don't even want to mention the, the other, this Lee County and everybody else. So I think the problem for me, it's right here because I don't want our residents subsidizing for the leagues when they are making money. I can see that way, but I don't think that we should charge of, hey, how much money do you have? You're gonna pay this much, because that's what it sounds like. I do think the opportunity for us is looking at here what the costs are, because I think $17, and I remember it was almost like around 60 instead of the 35. You remember you made that math?
Yeah.
And I'm in line with that. So if we want to revisit that schedule, which is page 78, I'm totally in agreement with that.
I have no problems, because I think our philosophy has been,
And you,
on this
you
board
had it,
is
Ed, and I think I was.
we're gonna charge people what's, fair, equitable. We do it with the assessments. We've done, I think we need to do the same thing with the leagues. We need to understand how much it costs. Now, but again, the one thing I'll add is amenities are amenities. I don't know one city, one state, or anywhere that runs amenities at a net zero.
Mhm.
If they're an investment, they're an amenity.
We
But
did
we
s-
do need to try to cover some more costs.
Right. We did some research on the Facilitron site, which is what the school and stuff uses. And if you rent soccer fields or fields at any other place, it is $40 an hour, an additional $25 an hour for lights with a minimum of 3 hours.
So, I mean, I don't want to price the leagues out, but at the same time, we haven't really raised prices in years. I mean, if it has, it's been small. And I know the leagues have raised their prices,
But I can tell you the leagues have raised their prices,
they have, I know.
but not because of us.
Right.
So are we
I mean,
gonna
there's
be the-
inflation,
yeah.
but I mean,
But if the going rate is large, it said it's $40,
It's
we're
that-
25, that's an opportunity.
I would-
Absolutely, yeah.
I would push this back to staff to go back and maybe look at another, bring some options back.
Yeah, I'll put some costs together and as far as actual costs and do some comparisons to what other places are charging.
Yeah.
And
I
get
don't want to
something.
be in
we
the
can
upper
build-
bracket, but
And this is
Yeah.
where we need to build a reserve.
don't
too.
give it away
I
either.
agree, yeah.
I mean, we have to have a reserve for these fields.
I'll be able to get
now-
that for you for the January meeting.
Yeah,
It'll take me
'cause
some
the
time
lights
to
are
get
di- you know,
together.
we've spent a lot of money on lights.
you
There's
should
still
have that.
other lights that need to be done.
Yeah, if we're gonna take and generate, and it's not only the operating cost, that 300,000, we're looking at about $500,000 in capital cost that's involved in this. When you start doing that, $40 isn't gonna cut it. That's not even.
Mr. Chairman, a few years ago, this board passed a resolution that we would not require the sponsors of the soccer leagues to divulge any of their finances or anything else that would jeopardize the continued playing of soccer on our fields. I think before we even consider such an amendment that Mr. Tinkle was recommending, we ought to dig that resolution back out and either endorse it, which I would recommend, or revise it in some way. But this is ridiculous to think that we're going to make money on the soccer field. It's ridiculous to think that it's going to be a $300,000 profit for somebody. Mr. Tinkle, I believe, is just pulling those numbers out of, where, and I think we're wasting our time to even talk about it.
Well, Bill, if you're gonna be blunt, I'll be blunt. You don't
Bill?
pick up the tab. Our
Please
residents,
be blunt. You have never known you to not be blunt. Go ahead, please.
Bill, you don't pick up the tab for this. Our Gateway residents pick up the tab.
Listen, Mr. Tinkle, I represent the entirety of Gateway Services CDD, and that resolution was passed by the entirety of this board.
Pick up the tab.
Okay.
I don't care about your point.
Okay,
You
point
don't
of-
pick up the tab.
Okay, guys.
You don't care about my point. I don't care about your point.
All right, let's move forward. So I don't think we're getting any traction on the financial statement, but and the one thing I would add to, Lauren, you and I have talked about this. There's only a couple of things that we can do here. One, we can raise prices. We can look to offset cost, or we could do a combination. I think, reasonably raising prices to cover operational expenses, I think that's reasonable. Two, I think we should still continue to work with our vendors to see if there's more cost-effective ways to offset cost in just overall management. Like mainscapes are, that's who I would go to first. See if there's better price negotiations we can do. So I think we're all in agreement. We want to decrease the burden on our resident. At the same time, we want to continue to offer, amenities and these services for the kids and residents of Gateway. So you're going to come back with a.
But we
with a
have the
revision.
January deadline, don't we? Do we have to, what are we gonna do between now and January 1st? Can we be ready by the next meeting?
Contracts expire at the end of December. I guess it would just be my recommendation that we move forward, all things remaining equal, at least through the end of May, and we just revisit it when we move forward with the management
Next year.
company. We don't have time right now. I understand and I agree we need to do something to bring in some more cash. I completely agree with you. But my recommendation and staff's recommendation is that we just go forward with the 6-month contracts. But I guess it would be up to Tony as far as the extra wording and up to the board if they want to put it in. So.
Don't you think, can you bring it up, the numbers that you have? Because I remember going through it and they were pretty accurate by the 16th, because we have a meeting December 16th.
We don't, well, that's on here too.
I think we're
Consideration.
talking about.
If we're gonna cancel our
Oh.
meeting, then
Oh,
I would
okay.
make a motion to increase these numbers up immediately and not delay these out. And then how do we do this then?
You have to schedule a public hearing and notice.
Well, let's schedule a public hearing and notice. I'm not willing to give this away for free anymore. I got too much heat going on my side of the fence over here.
It's 10 days notice. We have to know what the numbers are gonna be.
Well, so let me just throw this out there too. When we do things is important. We wouldn't increase rates to our residents and notify them a month before they go into effect.
that's
So
That's true.
there's some change, because these leagues have to operate and they operate, 6 months in advance. So I think we do need to be looking at it, but I don't think it's the right thing to do to just throw a price increase a month before their league starts.
We got a lot of pushback last year from the leagues. There was a very controversial board meeting, if I remember correctly, when we talked about raising it like $2 an hour, and they were irate.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
But then I also feel like that Doug, with all the respect, I feel like exactly what you said is what was said last year.
let's just look
We
at,
haven't
all
done
right,
anything.
let's do this. Let's, what would If we do an inflation of 5% increase would be what? It may not be where we're gonna land, but I
You wouldn't be
it's-
able to increase at all. That's what Tony's saying.
Well, that's what,
No,
without-
we have to have because we
We
have to have a
meeting.
public
Yeah.
hearing.
so if we're gonna have that, I'd just soon have raise it to what needs to be competitive with the others.
But,
And
and I guess one question is the criticality of January 1st being the start date as opposed to January 15th.
The contracts, all the current
No,
contracts
no, I understand,
expired,
but when do
yeah.
they start?
Yeah, but then you got leagues starting who are already collecting
By when do they start? I guess-
registration
when
to
do-
cover their operation costs, and now we're gonna, that's
Increase
just
it
not,
and-
that's just not right.
No, that's-
We should do.
I agree.
That's, all- no, I'm just wondering on timing, when do they start? Are they starting now?
Well, there's one January 7th,
They start?
one league starting, I think flag starting January 7th, soccer is probably close to.
So they already
Okay.
started collecting money
Yeah,
now.
the
'Cause it's open,
registrations
yeah.
are-
Okay, that's what I was
it's
trying
too
to
late.
understand, the
Registrations are-
Yeah, so then it's too late, yeah, then
All right, let's do it in a more orderly fashion. And
next
target
time.
For June.
Okay.
But I guess the question is, there's a motion made by Mr. Tinkle to add the financial statement. Is there a
There was
second?
no
to that?
second.
yes, I make that motion.
There was no second.
No
so the
second,
motion
okay.
dies.
So I guess the other question would be then to approve the forms to be utilized for the period from January 1 to May 31st, 2022.
Make that motion.
I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion?
Please, state the motion, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir. The motion is to keep the existing contracts in place.
Well, no, approve the form of the
Approve.
contracts that are in the agenda packet for the period January 1 to May 31st,
Yeah.
2022.
Okay.
Sorry.
Did you get
that's
that,
our
Bill?
motion.
Yes, I did. Thank you.
All right, so I'll call the, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. Mr. Chairman, what we may want to do, since it's now almost the witching hour, we set the public hearing is set for 5:30 PM. We may just want to take a brief recess of this meeting, of the regular meeting, and then reconvene the meeting at 5:30 for the public hearing and utility rates.
Okay, I will do that. So I will,
In the meantime, what we'll do also is get the big print out for y'all. I don't know if that was included in the book. The
I
rate
think so.
schedule, the revised rate
so
schedule.
we will take a break until 5:30.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 4 minutes.
No, it's just the affidavits in there, Laura. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I can't read it.
What, yeah?
The affidavit for that. Yes, sir. Warren. Where? Home or here? Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, me.
That's not, hey, you know what? People are do not, as my mom would say. They don't, no, Warren, they don't want to. understand.
You will get all the ladder bridges.
Yeah, oh, I got my AARP card.
That's nothing.
I turned 50 last month.
That's nothing. You're a babe in the woods.
What I, no, because you know what I said.
Charlie said, "Would you
I
feel
said
fit?"
that If they're going to do this, then the January 4th.
No, I definitely don't feel 30.
Only when
I
you
see
see
your
your kids.
kids. Thank you.
Yeah. I've got a daughter.
I reviewed the meeting.
Well, so my oldest just turned 20. I was like, I don't even know how I got a 20-year-old.
Okay, I need to get into this other public hearing.
Well, I'm
Oh, I
gonna pay the bill.
oh, yeah, I was gonna say.
When it's
I know.
paid.
Good for your water.
Hopefully he'll
Thank
get
you. I appreciate it. Thanks, Warren. Always nice to know what's going on.
Yeah. It's hard to figure out sometimes.
You guys,
They have one like this, I don't know, yeah.
okay, I'll see you in the morning.
See you in the morning.
We gotta keep
Tell me if we're meeting on the 16th.
Yeah, care.
See you, Warren.
Hey, did you want to do a system check on the voice? Okay. Is that there? Two people. But we do have to test the mic, because I think if we're offering the offside, that we confirm there's nobody. Or you know what, if you can, maybe that's what it is, yeah.
Yeah, whatever, yeah. Let me. Tony, how do you-
No, I don't. No, I don't see it.
One of my partners, man.
All right.
Hey, guys.
Okay.
I'll give it more.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, oh my gosh. Very good night. Oh, okay, I was talking to him a week and a half ago.
He's over there.
Actually, it's probably,
Yeah,
maybe it's somewhere different.
I saw it locked in.
Yeah, he said winter, spring. Okay.
Turned on. I don't think she's.
But he's in Orlando, but he's in the city.
She's.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, she can keep it.
I know.
Same as what we do for anybody else locked in.
You guys have the full size of the rate,
That's what I was just gonna ask. What?
the full size of the rate? No, for all the board members. 'cause what-
I thought Georgia handed all that out.
No.
See you later.
See you, see you. Thanks, man. Thank you.
I
I thought she had that printed.
did too. I thought she printed them for everyone.
That's the full public notice.
No, I think the one that's gonna be, there was a document that you all prepared.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you know, anything that requires like, depending on where you.
Oh, so
are,
just
there's
this.
Cost and we would cover,
I can
you know,
get that.
whatever that
Thank you.
is. I mean, it's not
And
gonna
then
be
I
easy.
can.
I mean, I've had 3 firms reject support because one, either there's so much business in the market right now. I mean, it's probably the first time, I think in 20 years for me, that we've had so much inverse in demand versus supply. So agencies can cherry pick, they're charging 35%. So, and it's not, this is not an easy search.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to stumble.
All of the headhunters I know that work in the public sector, none of them are available right
Yeah.
now. I've got a friend, and he's just gonna ask him for some of the
You know, like, this one that just came through was the first one I've seen that even is close. PE from Lakeland. Did you see that one? I don't understand why he's looking at this, other than the fact that he doesn't want to get into the consulting business, and he wants to be on the public side.
Well, former city manager, I know him very well, so and he's not there. I can get a, I do that with.
This guy's loaded with Lakeland ties.
Okay.
Laura just sent it out this
Well,
past
and
week.
I was gonna have someone go in through LinkedIn, Indeed, for these board sites and do a search and see who we can find. And I've got a short list coming through of all the city managers, assistant district managers, whatever, you know. So when I get that list, I'll share it with you. So, I mean, it's,
I've got a couple names that have been given to me.
Yeah.
But I just haven't followed up with it.
I mean, we might get lucky and find someone that sees a posting and they will apply, but for the most part, it's gonna be, we're gonna come through networking or who do you know?
Sure.
That's why tapping into other district managers. I mean, that's what we really could use, the district manager network, or city manager network, or.
The problem is very few management district managers. Hey, guys, you can't be
What? Sunshine law, you can't be talking. They're talking about recruitment management.
Anyway, yes, we'll get together.
I mean, no, the last time something like that happened.
All right.
See you, Cal. Thank you. See you.
Yeah, same thing with security. All right. And then we can have some coffee.
Yeah, okay.
We should at least order pizza. Hey, we're still at 5:30, man.
I gotta say hi.
On time. You're right there. Because hopefully we're gonna brace this.
If I'm gonna get hazardous TV paper coming to these meetings.
You know what? I need to have a conversation with Ed's wife, because she doesn't argue with him enough. He's got to save it for the boardroom.
Oh, I get it at the golf course, people want to know, what the hell are you doing over here? Giving away the farm.
Well, I should come with you. I should
That's
join
funny.
that foursome, because then I can talk about We were spending money on ponds, and that's,
Unfortunately, you can't do that.
okay.
Okay.
We almost bought them.
I
No, you
will,
go.
I will call the meeting back to order.
Start the meter, is that what you said?
Yeah, gentlemen, start your end. Okay, we will open the public hearing.
Sorry. Yeah, and Mr. Chairman, if I may, for the record, and the staff is, Leslie's bringing up got the actual rate schedules for the different for each board member. or-
Yes.
Thank you.
It was already passed out. This,
Well, no, that was different. That's, there's a difference between the two. The,
I hope not.
no, the difference is the nature of the document.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
The numbers are the same.
The numbers should be the same. Yes. Well, in the agenda packet is the affidavit of publication, difficult to read because the news press, as much as they charge for these ads, they don't quite give you the largest version. But we do have the original of the notice of the affidavit of publication in the Fort Myers News Press for the hearing on today's consideration of adopting revised rates. And the other item that was handed out is the affidavit of mailing by Leslie. And she is hiding in the back now. The affidavit of mailing by Leslie that it was mailed on the utility bills on November 15th, 2021. And as Tony and Robin and I have talked, there's this obscure little section in the Florida statutes tucked away in some odd statute that says you have to notify the customers of any rate increases by, sending it with the utility bill. So this little multi-page flyer, I'm impressed with Leslie and her staff. They sent it out with the utility bill. And so this is the affidavit of mailing. So that goes in the record to make sure everyone knows that we follow the proper notice procedures for this. What we handed out now was a more legible version of the rates. And when the board, after hearing from the public, if they decide to adopt the resolution, we'll take off this notice of public hearing part, we'll clean up and adopt, that'll be the attached exhibit A to the resolution that then revises the rates, fees, and charges of Schedule A.
Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, you've opened the public hearing. Anybody sign up to speak, Laura?
I don't have anyone online. Margaret Feinberg is here. She would like to speak about the increase in water rates.
If we want to have Tony do any presentation or.
Tony Harrison, maybe that's a great idea.
Well, I think, unless the board needs additional information, we have already presented.
I think it's a good idea to have it for the record. The actual adoption hearing.
Do you think maybe we could do the presentation first and then take questions? Because if the question will be answered during the
Yes, that's
presentation.
what I'm saying. Yeah,
Okay.
Mr. Hurst, yes.
All right.
Sorry,
Do we
Tony.
wanna-
I got it here.
I think you have the 5-minute clock. I'm just kidding.
And everyone should be pretty familiar. So if you can just go over the high.
But it's for the public.
I have a 5-minute
Chairman.
presentation. This is Tony Harrison with Reptalis, and just briefly, this is the rate study for the district's water, sewer, and irrigation system. It is an enterprise fund where the user fees support the cost of the system. And we made several presentations to the board over the past 11 months. We were here back in January and have done several web presentations and have adjusted things as capital and other things have changed. The purpose is to develop a sustainable rate and financial plan for the district's utility system. We have recommended rate adjustments over the next several years to make sure we have enough adequate capital and operating funding. There's additional debt to support significant infrastructure improvements. We want to maintain adequate working capital. We want to ensure that your system complies with the debt covenants that you have right now and you will have to fund the infrastructure forthcoming. And you also want to promote conservation. You're putting a good investment into the irrigation system. So there's a objective to promote conservation. Next slide, please. Here's just a highlight of the capital improvement plan over the next 5 years. It's 13.1 million, and several of these are irrigation projects. It's a particular focus of the capital plan. There's that funding to support about half of this plan as well. And that was presented to the board in the past presentations as well. The proposed rates, the first series of which are implemented, are proposed for January. In the next slide, please. And as shown here for
Residential user, 4,000 gallons. Compared to other utility providers in the area, you're at the low end. You're going to continue at the low end. As I'll show before going to the next slide has a series of rate increases in the future, this being the first of several rate increases. The district's bill for this typical user is going to stay relatively in the same ranking. These others, other utility provider rates are going to go up over time. So when we look at your relative ranking to these others, you're going to stay about the same compared to these others. So you've got a real comprehensive plan moving forward. If we look, you're going to be $69.36 for 4,000 gallons compared to these others that average $83 today. So if we go to the next slide, there's a lot of numbers here, but really this is the composition of that 4,000 gallon bill starts from the left at the water bill, adds the wastewater bill, adds them together. And those first two numbers under the monthly wastewater bill, 6610 is existing, 6936 is the January bill for next year. That was on the prior slide. And you can see future increases taking you out to 2025. So 4 years from now, you're at $84. If you remember, that average was about $83 today for the other utilities. So like I said, you've got a plan here to have a sustainable system without really changing the cost relative to others in the area. Next slide, please. Another focus is irrigation. For those utilities that have central irrigation service, their cost is a lot higher than your system. There are increases. We recognize that we're proposing increases to your irrigation rates, but you also are making substantial investment to your irrigation system. For a typical residential user, you bill bi-monthly, but putting on a monthly basis to put everything on apples to apples, the average usage is about 14,000 gallons. The bill would go from $10.85 to $12.63 per month. So it is an increase, but compared to others, I just say it's very economical. The next slide shows that a couple of residential single family, what their bill impact is for the irrigation compared to master meter and various commercial sizes. I'll say there are increases here. There was an adjustment on the tiered block rates to promote conservation, which adds to this increase as well. I'll just say the average cost, except for the very, very low users where there's a base charge, is between 77 cents and 90 cents per 1,000 gallons. That compared to the indoor usage, what you buy from Lee County is a fraction of the cost of what it would take if you buy from Lee County to irrigate. And as I showed in that prior comparison, it's much less than other providers as well. So even though it's going up and recognize that cost, certainly the district's making a lot of investment into irrigation, and there is a cost to that. And here's the irrigation rates over through 2025 for a typical residential, going from $10 to $15 over the next 4 years. So in conclusion, these rates over the next several years provide for adequate funding of operating expenses, the debt service, planned capital improvements. You have a close to a $8 million system here, including all those cost components per year. So it's a significant operation. Those user fees fund that entire operation. You also want to maintain adequate reserves, and these rates do that. The other bullet point is the proposed bills are very comparable to others in the area, as I mentioned. With that, the district should review its rate structure again by 2025 if nothing significant happens. Obviously, if there's some unknown capital that's not in this $13 million plan for the capital, then you would need to revisit that at some point. So, but we do have reserves in there to handle bumps in the road as they go. But you have a very sustainable plan and affordable compared to others service providers in the area. Thank you.
Thank you. Questions? Yep. I thought the report was great. I did have one question, going backwards, being an engineer and digging into something, looking for trouble. The 14,000 gallons per month on the irrigation, where did you come up with that number?
That is your
that a
actual
mathematical calculation.
Yes, that was looking at your residential, single-family users, which is the most numeric number of users.
So it's an
And-
actual usage.
Yes, actual,
Okay.
on it's a median usage level.
Okay,
And it also is a typical usage level for the size, the type of properties that you serve here as well.
Okay, well, let me go over what I did. I assume the average lot landscaping in Gateway, and again, keyword there, average, because we have one major difference between some lot sizes and other lot sizes. That creates all kinds of problems. But the average, based on the 10 lots I looked at, was about 8,000 square feet of landscaped water needing area. Assuming 1 inch of irrigation water per week for 35 weeks during the dry season and a half an inch per week for the 17 weeks that are the summer, or a total of 43.5 inches or 3.625 feet. If you multiply that 8,000 times 3.625 times 7.48 gallons per cubic foot, you come up with 216,000 gallons annually. Would be a typical lot if you follow recommended irrigation practices. Now, sometimes it's, it can be over the place. You divide that by
260,000?
216,000. If you divide that by 12, assuming average, that's 18,000 gallons per month. And we know that during the peak months, you're probably going to be up 24, 26. And on the wet months, you're going to be down, if you do it the right way and shut off your water in the summer or limit it, you're going to be down to maybe 10 to 12. Based on that, and I'm hearing this from my residents, is that zero tier 1 for the tier 1, 2, and 3 for the 5/8 by 3/4 inch, and that's the only one I'm talking about, that I would like to see that go from 0 to 15 to 0 to 20, 20 to 40, and then the 40 plus. That's the only change I would see in everything that you have done. Other than that, the entire report, I see where all the numbers come from. Everything looks fantastic. The reason I brought this up, and Leslie and I talked about this, and it's an option. We've got one innovative resident who has an extra lot that he irrigates, obviously. Well, he went through this and said, hell, I'm better off taking and switching to a 1 inch meter. And when you figure up his base rate, I mean, I think what did we come up with, Leslie? It's like a 5 to 1 ratio that he's getting burned staying with the 5/8. Now, that is not inclusive of the fact that he's got to come back and pay the meter base fee for going from a 5/8 to a 1 inch meter, which is probably going to cost him $2,000, $3,700. So if you take that and you use a lot of water, if you've got 2 lots, it would be very beneficial to do, because over time you're going to make that back. I just don't want to see a mass exodus of a bunch of 5/8 inch meter people switching over to 1 inch meters and then just running them like crazy to get to 70,000 gallons.
And what, I guess, just for clarification, this is the metered residential
They're both the
master
same.
for the irrigation?
Yeah, they're both the same.
What proposed tier, Mr. Dick, I'm just thinking from the standpoint of whether or not we can make this change at this time. If you're going to increase it, I mean, that's the question.
Well, you're gonna increase the allowance under the lower rate, right?
Say it again. I would just simply my proposal would be to take 0 to 15 and 15 to 30 and make it 0 to 20 and 20 to 40, period. And just nothing else.
That's for the
No other
5/8 and
changes.
3/4?
No other changes.
But that's for the 5/8 and 3/4?
Yes.
Would that result in a lower rate, Tony?
I think what it's going to result in is somewhat lower revenue.
Yes.
So it's a lower rate for that. So
Yeah.
it's an advantage to those individuals with the 5/8.
Oh, hell yes.
An advantage, and it would trim the revenue we have in here.
It's
Okay,
Otherwise,
not a
it's not
big
great.
ticket, but that's why I was really questioning you on your 14, how you arrived
Sure.
at it. If you did it based off the deal, then
I mean, I guess my question was only from the standpoint of adjusting downward, which is a benefit to the rate payer, as opposed to now the public hearing going
it's a
up.
benefit to ratepayers, no
Okay,
doubt about it.
so that would be, just so I understand it, it's the proposed irrigation rates, Schedule 3, monthly usage charges in 1,000 gallons, metered residential and commercial, under the irrigation 5/8 and 3/4, go from 0 to 15 tier 1, would be 0 to 20.
Keep in
No,
mind, right now,
I
it's
look-
0 to 25, so
No, but I'm just saying, but the proposed is 0 to 15, correct?
Yes,
And it would go 0 to
20
20, and then the other one would be 20
to 40.
20,001 to 40. And the last one would be 40,001
plus.
plus. Is that
And I
correct?
just wanna say,
Is that correct,
I
Tony?
did-
Yeah, that's good.
yeah, that's correct.
Okay.
I did not include this, but I did run an analysis based on community and how the tiers would fall. And I did the spread. So I ran actual usage based on community where residents and how they lied within each proposed tier. So I'm just providing you that information as well, so you could see that majority
So-
of.
Not
So what we're
master
saying
meter.
is a part of that 930, it's in tier 2 is going to drop back.
Correct.
And we don't know what part because we're only going 5,000 up.
So Leslie, so Tinkles is pretty much what you and I talked about as well, the 0 to 15. I wanted to know how they came out for the master meter, given that
Well,
specifically for Magnolia, because we had the huge increase on size and because of
Right.
the lake restoration and
Yeah.
if that was accounted for it.
well, the tier rate, and I don't know, Tony, you might want to explain more on that, but the tier rate 1 to 15, that's on everyone across the board. So all residentials would have that 0 to 15 tier a month, 15,000 gallons a month. So it would be the same equivalent for the master meters per unit.
So he's changed it, it's the same, it's the same math, it's just that
Right.
I asked you in the master meter capacity and he's asking you in the residential, but
Yeah.
the math is using the same numbers,
Right.
okay.
But hold it. You gotta watch that. Masters have a different meter base.
Their
do you
usage
bill-
and base
Or
charge.
do you bill it based upon the 5/8 times the number of
Yes,
houses?
we do,
Oh,
yes,
okay,
we do.
Okay, so just for
That's all.
clarification, can you bring up on the screen, Tony, or the exact,
I asked it as
the
same
the
question.
line that's
Why would
supposed to be
you do
changed, so there's no
60,000
confusion?
plus?
Thank you.
Why would you be 90,000?
This?
6
Oh, no.
No, the actual,
On
using
tier-
this.
Is it in this?
Now, on Lowe's.
No,
it's-
Multiple lots.
yeah, you need
I
the
got
rate.
people
It's not
in
in what I
agreement to
presented.
have 3 lots.
No,
I
I'm
think
just, is it in?
One.
The actual rate schedule for irrigation.
Because this is what's gonna be attached to the exhibit A to the
It looks like
resolution.
this.
Yeah.
This
Hey,
document
Les,
will
will
be
you pull
attached.
your.
Go back to
previous
that
slide
one
back
you
up
just
real
had.
quick?
The one you just had. Well, I think it's a combination of two things, Doug. I think it's people that have large lots, multiple lots. And then the
I
other one
see
is,
Hampton Greens,
yeah,
but
a
like
lot of Hampton
Park.
Greens. And then the other one is you've got people that they're violating our rules. They're not doing 2 days a week. They're watering every damn day of the week.
Well, they wanted to see that.
Yeah, I'm fine.
They're
I'm fine.
projected.
We were just.
Okay,
Yeah,
you're
that's-
fine, okay.
But the 133 people, I could see maybe 50 in this community, 50 big lots like Hampton Greens and some of those in Hampton Park. But
Right.
other than that, man,
Well, I could tell you this morning when I was going over this form and running irrigation, I had over 200 people who are watering every day.
200 watering every
200.
day.
And I've sent them emails with their daily graphs. So it is a combination of, yes, having a bigger lot, but yes, also over watering and not keeping track of
I
their
guarantee you, we
irrigation.
haven't got 200 oversized lots.
Yeah.
Not 200,
No.
maybe 50.
I sent out about 20 emails today, people watering every day. I mean, every hour. Every hour, every day.
Well, if you have a build-in, that's a different story. But we don't have that many build-ins where we're watering grass.
Yeah.
That's just not happening.
And it is true, those residents with the bigger lots are watering more and will fall off of that threshold on the
Well,
first tier.
what burns them though, is if they would have, let's say they have the houses on one lot, and they have 2 extras. They'd be better off coming in and having 2 5/8, one for each one lot,
Yeah.
because they get 3 times 15.
So I just wanted to give that information. I did that.
The last thing I want to do is get more meters. I'd rather
Yeah.
More
be a
meter, more
little bit
problems.
more working with the people, and I think this is a happy medium. That, and if anything, but Tony won't let me do it, is I would take tier 3 and just crank the hell out of that.
We can say that for next time.
Just raise it up. Because I don't know how, we can't find people. We don't have finding authority. So if they want to water 7 days of the week in violation of county standards, the only way we can get them is that your little water charge, you're going to pay for it. Surcharge.
Well, could we do 0 to 20, 20 to 30 instead of your proposal 0 to 20, 20 to 40?
Well, that screws up the formula used for the other meters. I just go 0, 20, 20 to 40 and be done with it.
And I talked to Tony about that and showed him the line where that would take place, and he agrees.
So we're good?
I don't see any, other than that, I thought the report.
I'll just say, so in the, that part of the rate for 2022 for irrigation, there's $800,000 of revenue that's the revenue requirement you're talking about. So if everything else is exactly the same, I don't know, I don't have the whole model here, but it'd be something less than that.
Yeah.
I mean, just off the top of my head, I don't think it's half of that amount, which would be, so it would be less revenue. One thing you could do is review it after a year to make sure.
I have no problem with that.
Yeah, just that part of it, not the whole, the water and all.
Well, the other one, Tony, that I did is we're looking at changing our controllers in Gateway Greens. I did a calculation of all 57 meters and the area they serve, acreage, did this same analysis. And we should be running over on there, the total of our 57 meters, irrigation only, again, is somewhere between 15 and 18 million, using this formula or this theory of an 1.5 inch. What were we, 27 million for the last 12-month period? So there is room for our residents to save money. But this is the bad side when you start doing this stuff. It results in a loss of revenue.
I think Tony has the numbers for that.
We got to watch what we do on this that we don't go crazy, because it can backfire.
Yeah, and again, in order, I think the wastewater, in the three systems, wastewater, potable water, irrigation, the wastewater is the biggest as far as revenue, water is the next, and the irrigation is the smallest. So that would be a change to the smallest. I just say that, but again, we look at our report and everything as it is right now, you would expect a slightly lower revenue. How much, I can't say right now.
And we've set up the system now to where we should have been doing we're doing what we should have been doing for years. We now have potable water, irrigation, and wastewater standing on their own, which is the way it should be.
Yeah. Okay. Other than we need a formal approval.
And we need to, public speakers, I think.
Yeah. So public comments. Margaret, I think you're the only one that's.
Yeah, Margaret is the only one that I've received.
Nobody online either?
Nope.
No faxes, emails.
There's no faxes, no emails. There's no one at the Denny Grimes office. No one online is requested to speak, just
Anybody
Margaret.
outside waiting for us with a gun?
Not for rates.
It might be something else. I think that's
Once again, Margaret Feinberg, Stony Brook Gateway here for myself. And I'm glad to hear what Mr. Tinkle said, because I paid my water bill yesterday, and I'm cheap when it comes to irrigating my lot. I turn it on manually, on and off. If we're gonna get rain, it's off. So, I would have crept into the second tier. And we're not in dry season yet. And so that was very concerning to me. But if you were to adjust those tier levels up, like he suggested, I think that's going to keep the least number of people being affected by that. I would not be in tier 2 if when you do the adjustments that you're doing. My other concern is the master meter irrigation. Like Stony Brook has a lot of area that we irrigate. Was consideration given to the communities that are on a master meter or more than one master meter, how that's going to affect them? Because we already had cut back on how much we were irrigating because we were trying to stay out of those higher tiers. This will cause us to cut back even more, and then things start dying. Then you've got a whole nother set of problems.
I'm going through that on my 57 meters in our HOA, and that's got me concerned. Tier 1, tier 2, we were averaging in between those two as a blend. We had 1 meter that hit tier 3, and we're going to do something about that. We can't go into tier 3 on a 2-inch meter. I mean, you just can't afford it.
No. I just wondered if any consideration had been given to that, because you're raising the rates, and I have absolutely zero problem with the rates being raised over the next 5 years.
Well, how many meters do you all have at Stony Brook for your common areas?
I'm not sure.
See, I'm going to guess that the majority of our common area HOAs, or our HOAs common areas, they don't have a clue of how much water they're using and how much they're spending on irrigation. I don't think they have a clue.
I can't answer that question, but I know if Mr. McCullough was here, he would know. And I know we've got more than one, because we had
Six common area, three along Pebble Brook, you have 2 cul-de-sacs and 2 outside of it.
But would hers be considered,
They're not master meters. Hers would be considered either commercial or yeah. So like Daniel's and we would be considered master meter, but when you explain to us, you're using just the same amount of water, just times by how many homes, we're still on the same boat for master meters. So as long as you adjust, as long as the adjustment, the 0 to 20 applies for both residential and master meters, then I'm okay with it. And that's what we're doing it. So
With the fact that we're basing the deal on the number of people, not the meter equivalent, I don't have a problem.
yeah.
So if we do run into problems, then what we need to do is look at increasing our meter size.
Well, what you got to do is you got to do a calculation. This
Right.
guy over in my neighborhood that did this, that wants the 1 inch, he's going to have to take that $3,700, figure out what his usage is on this bracket and find out how many years it takes to get his money back to start breaking ahead and staying in tier 1 instead of spending a lot of money in tier 2. I think he's smart enough that he's already done it and he knows the answer. I don't know if has he got your letter on the 3,700 yet? He may have been happy that it wasn't high enough that he's going to change his mind.
And it's something we'll watch real closely on the HOA side, but I agree wholeheartedly with raising the tiers on the lowest meter size.
Leslie, along that line that Margaret brings up, when we send out, and I haven't looked at a bill for a couple of years, when you send out the bill, like we have 57 meters, do you indicate on each of those meters to what extent we get into tier 1, 2, or 3?
No, it's not broken up.
See, I've never seen a utility that does it that way. Up north, if you have tiers, you show how much water, let's say you use 50,000 in our particular case, you would show in this analysis, 15,000 at this rate, and then 35,000 at the next rate, making the total. Our people don't have a clue unless they're knowledgeable of the tiers to work backwards to know just how high they are paying on a cost per thousand.
Yeah,
But that would be a major change to our billing system
correct.
to do
I
that.
would have to contact the developer, and the bill would have to go into the second page, because right now.
Yeah, I don't think you could, it's not enough room.
So I just want to be clear what the proposed rates are. We're only changing the residential from 0 to 20
And the irrigation.
on the irrigation, and the 1 inch through 10 inch remain as is on the.
And I think what you said is a good point. Check this at the end of the year, see what happens. Because I think when people start seeing this, there is going to be a reduction across the board in usage.
Well, we hope.
Well, the downside of it is if we lose revenue when they do that, but at least tell us where we're going.
So Leslie, but then it will also change for the master meters and the 5/8 as well, right?
Correct. Master
Okay.
meters will.
Master
would
meter
be-
residential on the 5/8 and then the 1 inch for master meter as well, or just the first one?
Just the first one.
That's the first
The
one.
first one, okay.
But I guess the question is, do we have to change any of the text?
Yes.
Where would that change take place?
I wouldn't think that would be
No,
in the
just here.
text.
What page are you on?
Yeah.
It's only those 3 deals that you showed.
Right.
Well, there's 4. It's the one that's a 5/8 by 3/4 inch meter. And then down there at the
But this, okay, but the one right
master meter.
the one right above it will not change. The master meter residential, none of those numbers change.
The rate itself won't change, just the tier.
Yeah,
the
just
tiers. I just
under
wanna make sure that's what-
proposed tier
Yeah,
1, 2,
just the
and
tiers.
3.
Just the tiers, yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
However, we we are on the same page that commercial and common area meters will be billed based on this tier, which is not on the 20, the tier block of 20.
Well,
Because right now, your common area, you have a 1-inch meter, you're being charged, you're maxed at 15,000 per
Oh, the same
ERC.
thing is to match it.
wait a minute, say that, this is important. Say it again now. Let's say I've got 7 2-inch meters and I've got a bunch of 1-inch meters and I got a half of mine that are 5/8.
Right.
Each one of those meters goes through the meter base of the size of the meter.
Correct, which is right now 15,000 times the ERC, which is double. I'd have to get that calculated.
Okay, let's make sure I understand this. If I've got a 1-inch irrigation meter,
Mhm.
I'm going to pay the 1-inch $10.58 doubled for 2 months,
That's fine,
correct?
correct.
And then I'm going to take and go across and I'm going to pay, let's say I use 50,000 gallons in that, I'm going to be under tier 1 for 0 to 75.
Correct.
Yeah, I guess for clarification, I mean, this is page 2 of 2 of the rates. It's the irrigation rates and it's schedule 3.
That's correct.
And the discussion is on the monthly user charges in 1,000 gallons, metered residential and commercial. Tier 1 becomes 0 to 20,000 for this is 5/8 and 3/4.
Yes.
Proposed tier 1 is 0 to 20,000. Tier 2 is 20,000 and 1 to 40,000. Tier 3 is 40,000 plus. Now the question then is, do we need to go down further?
Yes.
To the master metered residential per dwelling unit
Correct.
and change it to be the
Do the
same? But
same
the
thing.
question that Flavia raised was, are all the master meter residential, so we're using the 5/8 and 3/4 number for that,
The
per
master-
dwelling unit calculation, whether it's master
All the
meter.
master meter sizes are different. It's all based on the number of units. So
Okay, and the
we-
5/8 and 3.
That eliminates the scheduling of the meters.
Thank you. Okay, just
Okay, so it's
clarification.
one
Thank you.
for all. Okay.
So it's 2 lines.
All right.
Okay,
We all
thank you.
clear?
Yes,
Clear as mud. There's sometimes some people agree.
there's a lot.
Okay,
Do you have time to close the public hearing? And then
Yep.
the
Yep.
board discuss?
we will close the public hearing.
And Mr. Chairman, the appropriate motion would be, if the board so inclined, to adopt resolution number 2022-05, amending amendments to Schedule A of the district's rates, fees, and charges for provision of water, wastewater, and irrigation services as revised in the discussion recently with regards to the tiers for the 5/8 and 3/4 inch meters for residential on Schedule 3 for irrigation water, and down further, the master meter residential per dwelling unit to reflect the same tiers.
So moved.
You have a second?
A second?
Have a motion second. Any additional discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Good job with that. Thank you. Thank you.
With that being said,
Go back to the other.
Yeah, we're back to the regular meeting. Yes.
we'll turn back to the regular meeting.
Yes. Or irregular meeting.
You're regular. meeting.
Um,
So we're in the weeds.
We're at item 4D.
I think we're in D, First Horizon.
4D, the first Horizon loan is where we left off.
Oh, so that motion was for for the concession, it was for both?
The contracts are run at the same time,
Yeah,
January to
okay.
March,
Okay.
then January to May
So
for
we don't
both the
have to-
summer
Yeah, we
and the
skip all that.
concession.
okay,
Yep, we're picking up at 4D.
4D.
So I handed out the loan agreement. I'll get the line of credit agreement.
Is Stephen on the phone?
Yes, I'm here.
And I know that the board has just now been handed a copy, but I guess, Stephen, if you could walk through the essential terms of this proposed loan agreement, or if the board wants to have additional time and to review it. The staff has reviewed it, we're comfortable with it, but it's a multi-page document, so. Stephen, do you want to walk?
Yeah, just 1 second. Let me switch gears here. So, I mean, this is basically just kind of as a quick recap while I pull up the document. So this is the loan. It's right now what amounts to a
a 5-year loan. And as everyone knows, we are working on the validation. We're moving forward with the validation hearing in order to extend the term out. But this is the kind of the first step. This is the line of credit agreement. The not to exceed amount is going to be $7.3 million. And again, this is a little bit of a recap, but obviously there is a specific list of projects that was discussed during the budget process, which was reviewed by staff and discussed the budget process. That is what this line of credit is going to be covering. And so, basically, let me give you a couple other terms on here. So if you look at this, trying to see what page. Tony, you seen which page, the interest? It's the other thing I wanted to cover, just kind of follow up.
Yeah, while you're looking for that, Stephen, I'll sort of chime in on a couple of things. One is, if you look at page 2, the definition of assessments, it's for any and all non-ad valorem special assessments of Gateway derived from the levy and imposition of non-ad valorem special assessments against properties within the unincorporated areas of Lee County. That way it excludes Pelican Preserve within the district boundaries that are benefited by the project in which are legally available to make the payment. So that's why it's narrowed down. And then if you go to page 3, the definition of project, it says has the meaning set forth in the note. And that's at page 3 of the agreement. Then if you go to the notes on page A-1 of the note, the definition of project, it says for the purpose of, the note is issued for the purpose of financing the costs of construction of certain projects for the Gateway Services Community Development District, financing architectural, engineering, environmental, legal, and other planning costs related thereto, and paying costs of issuance of the note. That's the project. So it's very broad. And Stephen, Laura, and I had conversations about whether to narrow it down, but we kept it very broad. I mean, that's up to the board from that discretion. But as Stephen mentioned, it's $7.3 million. And there's again, it's a 5-year maturity because the issue about validation, so at least we get the borrowing going. And this agreement also authorizes the loan, and it has certain representations that are typical representations, no litigation pending, that adversely affect the position of the district, the validity of the agreement, or the organization of the district. Those kind of items, there's a requirement that there's affirmative covenants. We have to, maintain the various accounts that are required, necessary, and if there's any default, we have to notify the bank and maintain records, maintain existence, liabilities, which are the usual. It's the bank fees and expenses, Stephen, it's at page 6, section 3.2, bank loan fee of $7,300, it's 10 basis points. At closing, and the principal is.
What about bond coverage?
Bond coverage, I'm not, I mean,
is there a add on this? Do we have to have a bond coverage on it to, let's say, generate 125%?
Stephen, I don't believe so, Stephen. I don't think.
No, there is not, but as a side note, it is understood that the district will maintain their operating accounts with them.
And if we would have a $2 million, let's say, project under this line of credit, and then we are successful in the bond validation, we can roll this over pursuant to 3.6 prepayment?
There's no
Correct.
prepayment for the loan.
There's no penalty for repayment. And while you're there on A1, the interest rate, just put that in there in the record, is 2.39%.
It's in the second sentence in the bottom paragraph
what
on page A1. The first page of Exhibit A of the loan agreement.
In the note.
The note, I'm sorry. The bottom paragraph, second sentence, about halfway across, 2.39 per annum.
And it has the usual, again, the use of the funds, and it talks about the purposes for the project. And the financial statements, we have to provide them 270 days at the end of each fiscal year, which is typical. And Stephen, if I miss, and again, everything here is generally the typical kind of line of credit transactional items that you see. And again, it's a line of credit. We don't have to draw on it. We draw on it. We draw on it. That's how it works. And then the principal and interest payments, Stephen, I couldn't recall the timing of those. I can look at the note real quick and see. Due date. Stephen?
I'm sorry, what do you mean by the timing of those? I guess, just to be clear, there's still, as we talked about, an interest only period of time, whereas you're only obviously paying interest. And then are you asking if this is done, if the payments are going to be monthly or semi-annually? Is that what you're asking, Tony?
The period of payment.
Yeah, no, it's monthly.
I saw that a while ago, somewhere in here.
Yes, paid monthly, at the top of page 8
Yeah.
dash, first
Right,
dash.
yeah, 8-2.
And then there's an amortizing period, and those are monthly principal amortization and interest payments of 42 monthly installments.
Yeah, that's right.
And then we have the usual issue about it has to be tax exempt, otherwise if there's a tax liability, then all kinds of havoc gets wreaked. Stephen, anything else? I mean, guys, from the board's perspective, or I applaud Stephen on his negotiating this, and they were quite easy to work with, yeah, the bank and the council.
No, I mean, that covers, kind of the basics. And again, everything that we've discussed and the board was comfortable with. So there are no surprises in here.
There any Scrivener's rights on this, Stephen, such that when I plagiarize it for my $1 million HOA deal, I won't have any problem?
Well, here's the deal. I have it in a Word format, and Laura has it. It's a public record in her.
I have it in Word format.
Save some money, guys, I guarantee you.
I have it in Word format.
Because we're doing the same thing on the HOA.
Well, and again, Stephen, if you want to just quickly outline how district gets its money, we make a draw request and what, minimum $25,000 at a time.
Correct. Yeah, again, like we discussed, it is a drawdown as you have the invoices and need it. So you're not going to be paying interest on the full 7.3 million upfront from day one, which again is very nice. So as you pull down, and again, that's very important because of the timing of the projects.
Yeah, Stephen, I just noticed one item in here. It referenced a line of credit resolution. I don't recall the board reviewing or approving one. I thought we would have that.
What are you looking at, Tony?
Bear with me. I just saw that as I was going through. Oh, here we go. It's bear with me.
But we did that some time ago.
Yeah, we did, unless there's a second one. I think you're talking about section 2.2.
Yeah, so we do have the line of credit resolution. It's been a while, I guess.
Yeah.
So, okay, you're confirming that the board did adopt that resolution?
Oh, it has been a while. I'd have to, just to be very, very safe, we can double check on that.
2.2,
Section 2.2.
page
Yeah.
4.
Yeah.
As had or will
I thought
have
we did. I thought we'd done
to adopt the line of credit resolution to execute and deliver this agreement. Gateway by the line of credit has duly authorized the borrowing of the amount provided for. I don't know if we had that number before. Steven, if you can double check.
that. It says has.
Yeah.
Will have, so we got some wiggle room.
Yeah, we'll just make sure we have that squared away. And we'll just bring that to the bank's attention, see how they want to address it. So
Sure.
We could have the board, if the board declined, any public comment?
Who is this?
Oh, but it does say it adopted, it has duly adopted the line of credit.
Yeah, so.
Who is this First Horizon?
It's my understanding,
Iberia. Okay. Used to be Iberia, I think, right, Stephen?
Oh,
Yeah.
used to be Iberia.
it is my understanding, if we accept and take the loan, that in the first year, if we spend or draw 5 of the 7 billion, then our yearly obligation to pay it off versus non-ad valorem for the residents of Gateway will increase $180 per resident. Does everybody know that?
How did you get that?
I got that from Stephen. And if the SRF,
Oh, you mean if we don't get the bond validation and convert it over?
if we just go with this,
Yeah.
This
Well,
will-
yeah,
this will-
this is the impact of.
this is going to cost us
This is the impact of why you do.
$180.24 per resident. That's on top of the $60 for the SRF too,
That's why you do the bond validation.
which brings it to 240 next year. That's right. So we're against the clock pretty fast to get something rolling.
Yeah, and I guess, Stephen, in just rereading this, the last whereas also talks about the line of credit resolution, so I guess I had assumed we'd have that. The board is thinking about not having a December 16th meeting.
Yeah, just first I saw it. I didn't know anything about it.
I didn't know it either. I'm prepared to be here, but
I'm gonna be out of town, but you guys can.
Because I'm thinking what we may want to do, Stephen, is just make sure we have that line of credit resolution on the 16th.
Sure, yeah, I will get with Marilyn in the morning.
you in the country,
Yeah, that'll be you. But then, no, be you.
and we need 3 of us right at the minimum. I do have a daughter that's got an operation, but it's not scheduled yet, but that might impact it.
And you'll have,
I don't see it
unless
now.
Bill has something, you'll at least, you could have as many as 4, but I would not be here.
So what do we need to do now?
Or we can,
Do what?
With Tim, make sure that, I don't think I'll leave it, but. I'd like to say it right here.
We've noticed that, Charlie.
oh, does he go with you?
No, that's what I meant, like,
Do we have to do something with this document? now? Do we
Yeah.
have to vote on it?
Yeah, but in relooking at this, again, we need to have that line of credit resolution. It could be a simple document before we execute this. I guess the board could agree to enter into the line of credit agreement once the board adopts the resolution, but we still need to have that resolution.
So we wait till the 16th?
We can't make it now because it's got to be publicly noticed.
Well, no, he
No.
wants to have this document saying that we did it right.
Yeah. Again, I apologize. I just caught that in there. I thought we did.
So
I
do we
completely
have
missed it as
to,
well.
I'm sorry?
No, I completely missed that as well. I'm actually going back through the resolutions, just seeing if I can find it.
I know we authorized.
so we need to leave this meeting open until the 16th, extend it?
Well, no, what you could do is, I mean, if you want to have a 5-minute meeting next week sometime, just do it and not have the meeting on the 16th. Just continue this to date and time certain next week. And we should be able, I mean, my schedule is kind of crazy. Next Thursday is fine for me.
What's next Thursday?
Pelican has
Ninth.
theirs at,
I'm sorry?
Pelican Preserve has their meeting on the 9th, but if we have it quick, it should be okay.
Oh, it should be a 5-minute
What
meeting.
time's their meeting?
2
just
o'clock.
a second. Yeah, it's usually at 2.
We can
Yeah.
make this one at 4 for 5 minutes. I mean, or earlier.
They may not be done.
You can make it for 2 o'clock. You can make it for 1:30.
No, I'd much rather do later than that.
4
If they're
o'clock
still in
Friday.
here, could I just use my computer and record it from there with the camera? Would that work? Go to
Sure.
the meeting? Okay, so we can always just have it, we'll figure it out.
In the office.
Yeah, we could have it in Gary's office. I can just set up my
Should be
laptop and record it
continue
there.
to date and time certain next Thursday at
4, 3:30, 4?
4 o'clock.
What's best for you?
It's fine. Yeah, 4 is fine.
And again, it should be all 5 minutes. And we'll make sure.
And that, the date on that is.
The 9th.
Tony, we can't even take roll in 5 minutes.
You wouldn't talk so much, we could.
I know.
So-
Thank you, Ed. I'll take that under advice.
There's a phrase for that, and I won't go there.
Something about
You
a
mean
pot calling the
touche?
kettle.
No. Hot
So-
kettle black.
So Tony, before we adjourn,
We'll
I will
continue
not, I will continue.
The date
All
and
right, so
time
we can
certain.
go through the remainder of.
Yes, sir.
Okay, all right.
Thank you.
So the consideration was, I mean, again, I won't be here, but if.
But you'll be here the 9th.
There
right?
was yeah, I'm here on the 9th. I'm talking
Okay.
about the 16th. There was I guess, a consideration to cancel the 16th meeting. The driver for that is just what the agenda's like, and there's just not.
Normally, the board doesn't have a second meeting in December. I think that's just why it's on there.
Well, if
That's,
y'all aren't gonna be here, we could get a lot of things done I want to
Yeah.
do. Ed, are you leaving?
Let's don't say we, No such luck.
All right, so we're gonna cancel
So
that?
we're gonna cancel the 16th and have just a single.
Continuation of
issue,
this on to the 9th,
continuation on
just to,
that.
to go over
On
the
the-
resolution
yeah,
for
okay.
the loan.
Any items to pull for consent agendas 5A through D?
Not for me.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, supervisor comments. Flavia, I'll start with you. All
If you want to go back to me after that, I have a couple of things.
right, never mind. She's deferred to Bob.
Well, Tony, you never got to give your update
Just, I
either.
just have a couple
Yeah.
of things just to report real briefly. Mr. Guy's not on the phone, or is he? on the
No.
meeting?
He dropped.
Just, this is on the request to the Culver Gateway to make 2 changes to the agreement we talked about, Mr. Tinkle raised, that the water withdrawal license agreement would add lakes 117 and 122. And after much cajoling and convincing them that they did in fact need those 2 lakes added,
They did.
well, they finally agreed. They
They're
finally,
interconnected.
no, Ed, they resisted, right?
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
I'm serious. You gotta see
Because
the,
they don't
Fervently
understand that the pipe
resisted,
from
yeah.
117 goes to
it was like,
122.
Why do we need those 2 lakes? I was just
I
back
hate
and
that.
forth. Yeah.
yeah, so anyway, that's one. So
The
they,
water level goes down and they need those for volume.
Right,
They'll figure out
exactly.
why they
Yeah,
need those
after a while, they
lakes.
just
so
said,
they
okay.
agreed with that. But here, as to the other point, here's the email from Tom Garlick, who's the attorney for the club.
This is the issue of us asking them for a.
Right.
Membership.
This November
Yeah.
29th, I'll read it verbatim. We'll put a copy in the record. Don, I assume you and Jimmy will check out the extra lakes they want added. He doesn't get it. The membership demand sounds a bit like extortion to me, but up to you. It is a financial issue and to my thinking uncalled for and of course never raised before. I have no idea how many employees the GSCDD has to be using the club. Note this request is not the grantor or the license for the lakes. The SWFWMD asking for this, which is not true. It's the Gateway Services District. I do not understand why the SWFWMD would include this third-party perk in its board approval. This perk gift to the services district. They must have asked for it, and it certainly is last minute. This is your business decision. I do not think the GSCDD has the right or power to, in fact, amend the SWFCMD permit. And then the next email is the no. Let me find that. I just wanted to make it had the flavor of the conversations that we had. Let me find this from Tom Garlick again. I sent the minutes and the minutes didn't satisfy Mr. Garlick. So then George was kind enough to get an audio clip of the board discussion. This is November 29th again. Well, Tony, thank you for sending the audio. As I listened, someone, perhaps you or another Gateway Services, suggested that the district should get some consideration for the transfer of benefit, et cetera. However, a board member duly noted that the district is not granting or giving something the club did not already have. The service providing of water under the permit had been free for a long time. The board member said it was likely since a membership cost $10,000 plus there was no chance in hell the club would agree. As I understand the final resolution, it was determined that the district could ask for the corporate membership, but not, or NT demand it if the club said no. The club says no. That should end the discussion. Agreed, the condition will be removed and not apply. Please confirm and remove the language from the permit. Thank you. So obviously there was a conflation between permit and the agreement.
Get this over.
So I know that board action was ask them. The answer is no. So I would just ask the board to wish to move to authorize the chairman to sign the golf course water use withdrawal license agreement with the addition of lakes 117 and 122.
So moved.
And is Kenny here because Kenny wants to get off that permit?
Kenny wants this.
Yes, he wants off
district
that.
liability.
Out of here.
He cannot wait. And Swift Mud's on our butt about getting
All right,
this
so we
done.
have a motion, we have a second.
Guys, we can't do nothing. I mean, it's that simple. We can't do nothing.
Is Kenny still here?
I think he left.
Because he has to do annual reports, I think. doesn't he?
Yes, and Southwest
wants
Florida
it out
wants
this
this, they want our name off this permit. They're on Kenny to get our name off this permit.
He can't get anything done by South Florida until we get this done.
Yes,
They're
so they're
just-
holding up
they're
other
holding
stuff.
us
Hold until
hostage.
next week.
They're holding us to hostage.
Yeah, until we.
All right, so we'll table it till, we'll hit it on the 9th. Okay.
What's gonna change between now and then?
Well, that's what
Yeah.
well, the only difference is that they're saying no for.
They don't want to give us the golf membership, but they're in there
We knew we
asking
weren't
for the
gonna
other
get it
two
anyway.
lakes, and I mean, it was a nice perk.
Then why didn't you say?
Because I'm thinking.
Oh, okay.
I don't just talk.
Don't go to the second question.
I don't mean to speak for Kenny because he's very good at speaking for himself. However, he is just very stressed about this.
Yes, he is
So
extremely
let's just
stressed
recap
about
it. So we
this.
made a motion, and the only thing that we asked is for the corporate membership, which they already told us no.
Right.
Are we gonna fight back?
I think, and I can just speak
Well,
for my
Ed already said
conversation.
They wouldn't do it before
Yeah.
we even sent it there, and they used that as justification on why not
Right.
to do it.
Yeah,
Well,
you
so
gave
that-
them-
Look, my deal is I'm representing 500 people over there that are gonna pay for it.
Well, you were
Why-
presenting a lot more
Yeah.
things, so you put that hat back there. Now it's a different hat.
Yeah, don't go to the member.
They're the ones who elect us.
Yeah, and this is, and I'm not coming, I'm
It's
not,
like telling Bill he can't
I know.
vote when, if he doesn't pay for the
Oh,
soccer amenities.
it is the same thing. It is the same thing.
That's
But
what
he
I
represents
said.
everybody.
He
I didn't
But
think
he
so.
represents everything. You say you represent the 500.
No, I'm saying that we're paying for this either way. He's not. That's the issue.
Anyway,
Kenny is the basket case.
Yep.
He
Yes.
wants out of
We,
this.
and I said Southwest Florida is riding him.
Florida.
We need to, South Florida.
South-
Sorry.
You're acting like Tom
Swiftwater,
Garlic. now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, that was a big insult.
was.
No, Kenny is extremely
Even
stressed
I
about
felt that.
this. And
He's-
yeah,
he's very
it's
sensitive.
holding up some other things. And so we would really,
We
we're
need
appealing
to
to the board to please reconsider and go with the fact that they said no and just sign off and add the
All right,
two
I'll
lakes.
second.
Thank you.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any
Thank
opposed?
you.
Thank you. Briefly, on the Cayo Polone agreements, we're close. I just needed confirmation from Steve Agapi on one question raised by the principal of the Gateway 2012 LLC about language in the maintenance agreement. So
Yeah,
I-
maintenance
I think we'll wrap that up.
It's
not
this close.
99.9% there. On the Pelican Reserve DRI status, never let it be said that people hold grudges for years. We had the planning board meeting yesterday on it, and the staff came out with recommended language that excluded the use for evacuation purposes. It was for the district to access its service, its utilities, and for emergency access. So then we said, we'd like to have evacuation there, because if you recall, part of the ability of this district to utilize the sales proceeds from the fire impact fee credits was that the folks in phase one of Pelican Reserve, Old Pelican, had to benefit
Had a
from it.
benefit.
So you had to benefit from the district could access it for utility and also stormwater management, but also in case of emergency or evacuation. Well, the staff somehow thinks that there was a concern expressed that it might not be as a controlled process as that. And we said, no, it's for evacuation. It's not just simply if there's a 5-car tie-up because the gate guard is slow with the entrance. It's that if there's like a gas line breaker,
Natural gas explosion.
something, and if people can't get out, they need another way out. Well, who's gonna anyway, so finally, the planning board finally got it, and I had to go up and say, we are going to own, control, and maintain, because I kept asking, who's gonna operate it? We are, we're paying for it. So we finally got that point across, and then about the type of gate and the paving, the asphalt, and they were all concerned about what's going on anyways. They recommended it for approval and for us to work with the staff to finalize the language before it goes to city council. And I think the folks in Pelican Reserve are already starting their communications with the council member for that ward to say.
Get it on the agenda.
Yeah, because there was a comment made about, oh, you don't want to have preemptive evacuation 3 days ago. A declaration, we don't make those. And we're going to control the gate. So it was interesting, right? Laura was there.
Very
I appreciate her being
interesting.
there.
And they were concerned that we were gonna be making like sending 20 and 30 vehicles a day through their gate. And I'm like, it might be once or twice a week that we go back there for something. It's not.
So
that
anyways, it
much.
was different, but yeah. So, and then they have to go to, there's 2 readings before city council and a request to have, so it may not be until February. So.
It'll take a year
No,
at least.
14, 16 months.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Absolutely ridiculous.
And you forgot when they asked what Lee County asked of us and we said nothing. They didn't ask for anything. It's all the city that's holding
Yeah,
us up.
and one of the staff members again revisited, well, back in 2013, and again, I'm going.
Tony popped up and he was running down to the microphone.
Then Steve, I said, Steve, come here. So Steve and I went down there and said, hey, and Steve did a good job of explaining.
He did a
Hey,
very
it
good
wasn't
job.
just a survey, it was a vote. Okay, Steve said that. I mean, so it was just, it was.
They were concerned the Pelican people weren't behind it?
Yes, because of what happened in 2013.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
did kind of fill up their hall.
Yeah, but that was 8 years ago.
So we told everybody to wear green shirts.
We had red shirts on.
We said
Well,
wear
that-
green
we
shirts
said-
this
When
time.
we had our Zoom session, I said, we're gonna wear green shirts at the city
Yes.
council. And that's, and
That's good they remember.
they remembered. Nothing else to report
Now I
this
know
time.
why I
sorry.
didn't go.
Oh, no, I'm glad you didn't. We may have lost it if you did. Yeah.
I won't even say what I think.
No, I understand. We were all thinking
Okay,
the same thing.
let's continue moving forward.
I'm sorry.
So, no, thanks, Tony. Anything else for Tony? Okay, Bob, supervisor comments.
I only had one, and now it's so buried here, I don't know where it was, I'll bring it up later.
Okay.
It had to do with the changing the permits, modifying permits for requirement of littorals. And at one time, I thought I heard that was a pretty expensive process. But there were-
Modifying the DOs?
Yeah, there were two types of avenues that are available to us depending on the kind of loan. And one can be done for $50, the other can be done for 100. So if we choose to do that at a later date, because I'd like to see that as a requirement for
The LDOs, to enter into an LDO.
yes. And
You're-
there are
you're-
two different types of orders.
Yeah, but the trouble is, you're just going to bring in HOA after HOA is going to file suit against us.
Well, whatever.
We have a bunch of chairs.
Do what?
We have a bunch of chairs.
So anyway, I'll probably defer that to January. It's pretty late to get into that one.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was interesting. We had a cheaper alternative than $1,100 for each one. That was my takeaway. And I got that from your girlfriend. She remembered.
My girlfriend
You know what?
doesn't begin with Jessica, does
It
it?
could. I wasn't gonna throw her name. But I finally reached,
No
but I
kidding.
finally reached.
Thank you, Bob.
Ed, you're next, supervisor comments.
Tony, how we coming on the FBL?
I just, with everything else going on, I just sent an email off to Charles today saying, hey, can you just update the survey and the title work? And we're not gonna worry about the Lee County issue.
And we're going both sides. You're trying to go both sides.
Yeah, well,
Gateway Boulevard.
the north side is part of the deal for the Pelican Reserve Road.
Oh, it's coming over to us.
It's part of that transaction.
Lennar's doing that.
Yeah.
So then we're just the south side.
Yeah.
That's all I had.
That's it. Flavia?
Maybe Ed can help me with this one. The swell that it's between the Hampton Park and Stony and 82, the water that goes there, that comes to our system or that goes to Lehigh? On,
Nothing in Gateway except for the far northeast corner of Timber Creek goes to Lehigh. That's the only piece of all of Gateway that goes to Lehigh. Everything else, including all of Timber Creek, comes to us.
okay, so I did enter a few requests for maintenance on that swell because it's pretty bad between Hampton, starting at Stony Brook all the way down to the school. They came in and they mowed what I necessarily didn't want, but they came back last month and took care of the Stony Brook side and Hampton. However, they did it on the school side. So if you're saying that the school side is still that water comes to us, there's an opportunity maybe for me, I don't know, Laura, if you want to reach out, it's the county, it's the state, but it goes to the county. But it's coming to do some maintenance. All they did is came in and mow the grass on the sidewalk, but that's not what we need. It's on the,
The FPL easement?
yeah,
No.
on 82. Because it's dry now, so they need to take care of that now.
Well, you're talking about within the right of way of 82? That's the county's.
Well, it is the county, but my question is that water that goes there, that comes to our system or not? If it goes to our system, I want it to be taken care of it.
That water may not come to our system. That's outside of Gateway.
Well, when I'm looking at the geomap, it looked like it comes up to us, and that's what.
See, I don't know where- I don't know where- I don't know where it would, I don't know where it would come this way at.
It would go
I don't know
under,
how it would
it
get
would
over
go
the berm.
under, it would go under Griffin and then to Hampton Park. Because I remember there was,
There's no way to get across the entrance into Hampton Park. I mean, they got like a 12-inch conduit underneath that road. You can't get all that flow that way. I think it must go across the road.
So the school goes across the road and.
No, I think the school's property comes, in fact, I know the school's property comes to us, but the flow that's in the road right of way, that's in the V ditches,
Mhm.
I don't think a drop of that comes to us. I don't know how it would get in here.
Okay.
I think it goes to Lehigh. I think it goes down and crosses over, what's that little cut over road that goes over to, Lehigh?
I know what you're talking about.
It's right in that area.
Okay. All right, so.
I'm not aware of any place there's a culvert or a pipe to send 82 water this way. Nowhere. I don't know of any place.
And I just had items, just follow up really for you, because I was trying to figure it out. I did have requests for them to clean the monuments before they put in the holiday signs, and they went in and cleaned one.
I thought they did more than one. I
No,
thought
they
Rick
did
was
one.
working on it.
That one,
Oh.
I went and I went to pictures and I was like, there are 8, so. So now can you have somebody go in, I mean, it's just horrible. If they can take care of that, and the stuff, and I'm concerned, because I do jog in the morning. The entire length of Silver Lakes, and I don't know if it has to do with the way the irrigation comes from us, but the entire sidewalk, it's nothing but mold. So any little bit of water, sometimes not even irrigation,
Slippery.
it's so slippery, it needs to be cleaned. So from the beginning of the Silver Lakes all the way to the end, it is pitch black when it's dry. And sometimes at 6 in the morning, 5:30, you can't even walk there.
Black ice.
It is horrible. So I think there's some opportunities, like even in front of the building here, it's pitch black. And I know he's not that busy, so maybe we can get him to look at those things. I didn't get an email from Jim, who wants to know where to put the dog park chairs. Can you believe it? They're still there as of yesterday.
They were there
That
this
was- that
morning.
was
I
about 3
stacked them
months
up
ago,
and,
wasn't it?
He
yeah.
doesn't know where to
Yeah.
put it, honey. I think you're not clear enough.
We talked about putting them inside the dog park. People are leaving their chairs out in the grass at the dog park again, even though they were warned that if they did it again, we were gonna make them go away. I stacked them up this morning because I was down there with someone before Mainscape came to mow.
Private chairs?
Yes.
They're just leaving them?
12 of them. So
Yep.
Tony said that, it was a liability, and we had agreed.
And they were warned.
You know,
Yeah,
that
they were
green
warned.
So
That's.
they're not
in
allowed
the
to bring in
dumpster.
any.
I think they can bring them in, but they have to take them
They have
out.
to take them out. They
And
can't
that's,
leave.
that's what they
Okay.
said they would do. They
And what
said
I
they
would
would clean them
suggest
up
is,
and they
What
don't.
I would suggest is that take them all up, gather them and store them.
Yep.
And then put a sign at the dog park saying, if you're looking for your chair, we have it nice and comfy and safe in this storage shed over here.
For a
And
mere
you know,
$5.
Fee, yes, that's what I was gonna say, the fee.
Reclaim fee.
Reclaim fee.
and then somehow if we can find out the names of the people, send them a letter saying, if you don't come get it,
I believe Jim knows. who they-
then send them a letter and
I
say.
think
within a-
that's Dolly and her group, if I
And
remember right.
send,
Yeah.
and I'll look at the statute, and say within a week, if you don't come get them, we're going to consider them abandoned and we will dispose of them accordingly.
And then the other thing,
Yep.
the other thing that I have is this, conversations with the vendor on the sidewalk, the water issue by Gateway Greens by the pool.
It's still there.
So it's still there.
That's not a good idea. I have one.
I don't know if we're limited in the amount of time that we have to go back to them and say, here's the problem. I mean, if there's a delay of them scheduling to fix it, I don't have a problem, but this was.
They should be
prior-
aware.
Prior to Brian leaving, I asked for this, to, be addressed.
Matter of fact, a week after it was complete.
Yeah.
I will take that. That was deferred to Kenny and I.
Tony, I had
because-
one
but I'll
more
take
thing
it.
for you.
Yes, sir.
And that's it.
I thought that the paver issue for Casella was resolved when they sent us the email saying they were going to apply pavers at the monument. And I think I forwarded it to you.
Yes.
Okay, there was a refusal of that today. Saying, no, we never said we're going to give you anything at Casella. So I'll forward that.
Yeah, please do.
Apparently got high enough on the food chain, somebody realized that was going to cost them
Wow.
some money. I don't know if we can hold them accountable to what they agreed to do.
Okay, if you can forward it, may or may not.
Via
may not be
emails,
able
I'll
to.
send that to you tonight.
Yeah, oh, by the way, on the gateway, on the Pelican Reserve issue, at the meeting yesterday, after the meeting, we kind of chatted afterwards, and I was told, I think, can't remember who said it, Laura, that apparently Lennar's windows have come in
Yes.
for their homes in Pelican Reserve. So that was one of the issues about holding up their completion of some of their buildings and homes, was windows were back ordered big time.
Well, the other day in our meeting, the issue came up that their closeout date is quickly coming at us.
Correct, and that was part of the discussion, yeah.
That's why we're trying to expedite
Yeah,
getting
they
it in
keep
front.
deferring it because they couldn't get supplies.
Yeah, apparently they have the windows, so.
A couple buildings without windows.
Okay, anything else?
And the meeting is continued to this Thursday, December 9th, 2021 at 4 PM.
4 p.m.
Thank
Yes.
you.
All right.
Yes, motion